Chapter 2002. Entering the house. 1. AI. Look at how well he said it. Anything that could be settled with money was not a problem. It was a pity that the elders in the family did not understand this principle. Although he knew that he didn't have much say in the Yao family, he now deeply understood the importance of having a high position and power. If he were the first elder of the Yao family, who would dare to oppose his words? The clan head would also pay more attention to it. Unfortunately, he could only think about it in his heart. Seeing that Yao Ji seemed to be deep in thought, Uncle Long did not disturb him. Yao Ji was also lost in her own thoughts. After a long time, the depressed Yao Ji suddenly remembered Uncle Long's existence. He looked at Uncle Long apologetically and said, "Uncle Long, I'm sorry. I was a little distracted." Hee. It's normal for young people to be distracted occasionally, but don't delay the important business. The compensation we asked for is here. If you don't dare to make the decision, quickly contact your family's ancestor. Uncle Long reminded with a faint smile. Uncle Long, I can make the decision. I agree to compensate you according to the value on this list. Yao Ji said bluntly. In fact, under such circumstances, the Yao family did not have the right to refuse. Even if the other party wanted all of the Yao family's property, the Yao family could only give it to him with both hands. After all, the Yao family could not afford to lose its members. Those half-dead members were all the elites of the family. Without them, the Yao family's strength would suffer a great loss. Therefore, the severity of the situation did not allow them to refuse. Are you sure? Do you really not need to ask your family's ancestor? Upon hearing Yao Ji's words, Uncle Long seemed to be worried. I'm sure. There's no need to ask the ancestor. The ancestor has given me full authority to handle this matter. Yao Ji said yes. The family head had said that as long as the compensation the other party demanded did not exceed the value of the items he had brought over, there was no need to ask him. As for the family head, he should be so angry that he went into seclusion. Out of sight, out of mind. The compensation that the other party asked for was slightly lower than the property he had prepared, which was within their budget. That was why he dared to make his own decision. However, even if the other party's compensation was less than the property they had prepared, it would still be a pain for the Yao family. However, they could not refuse. From now on, the Yao family would probably be depressed to the point of vomiting blood. In the future, they would have to live frugally. That's good. This time, Uncle Long was completely relieved and praised Yao Ji. Yao family brat, you're a good person, unlike the rest of the Yao family, who are extremely annoying. Not bad. If you perform well in the future, you will definitely have a bright future. He even patted Yao Ji's shoulder to encourage her. Thank you, Uncle Long. Yao Ji forced a smile. He politely declined Uncle Long's praise. However, he didn't expect that Uncle Long would hate the Yao family. This fact shocked him. It seemed that he had to restrain the Yao family from appearing in front of Uncle Long in the future. Otherwise, if there was another compensation like this, the Yao family would go bankrupt. No, the Yao family was already bankrupt now. If they were to do it again, the Yao family would probably go bankrupt. Hee. No need to be so polite. Yao family brat, since you've come to the Yao family tower, just stay here for a few more days. There will be an auction in a few days. Seeing that the negotiation was a success, Uncle Long was in a good mood and enthusiastically asked Yao Ji to stay. However, Yao Ji did not dare to stay any longer. If he stayed any longer, even if the Yao family paid the compensation, the Yao family members would be dead. Thus, he had to hurry back as soon as possible. Thinking of this, Yao Ji immediately handed over a few storage rings respectfully according to the compensation on the list. Uncle Long took them and scanned through them. The contents were clear at a glance. Then, Uncle Long's face bloomed like a flower. Compared to Uncle Long's happiness, Yao Ji's heart was filled with bitterness. In the future, the Yao family might not even be able to live as well as the top families because they had no more money. Whoa. Uncle Long glanced at the depressed Yao Ji and ignored him. Then, he handed him a small white jade bottle and said, "This is the antidote, but you can only take it away. I can't give you this small bottle. Put it in your own bottle and return it to me. Yao Ji's mouth twitched involuntarily at Uncle Long's words. It's just a white J bottle. Do you have to be so stingy? He had given the other party several storage rings. He didn't even feel heartache. However, he believed that as long as he revealed the slightest bit of heartache, Uncle Long would definitely return the storage rings to him without a second thought. Unfortunately, he would not say anything. The Yao family couldn't afford to lose that face. Then, he helplessly moved the pills in Uncle Long's white jade bottle into his own medicine storage bottle. Then, he bade farewell to Uncle Long and the others before he left the Yao clan building as if he was running for his life. He wouldn't come to this damn place easily in the future. After Yao Ji left, Uncle Long was in a good mood and laughed wildly. Ao Jie couldn't take it anymore and said with disdain, "It's just a small amount of money. Do you have to be like this?" It was really the behavior of an upstart. "AI, don't say I know you. It's so embarrassing. A small amount of money? Parvenu behavior? Embarrassing? If you have the ability, go and earn this small amount of money for me. It just so happens that this lord doesn't have enough money to spend." Uncle Long said calmly. "TSK, just you wait." Ao Jie said. Then, he turned to Chung Wu and asked, "Brat Chung, who else do you have to deal with? Tell me, we'll help you deal with them." What he meant by clean up was actually a robbery. However, this tribulation wasn't something that just anyone could hit. Otherwise, it would definitely cause public anger, so he could only rob the enemy. When Chung Wu heard Ao Jie's words, his forehead was immediately filled with black lines. He thought to himself, this Uncle Ao is also someone who wishes for the world to be in chaos. However, he did mention the names of a few families obediently. Ao Jie frowned and said unhappily, "These families are too small. They don't have much money. Do they have any in the 8 divine domains?" Among the enemies in the 8 god realms, other than the one family, the Yao family is the only one left. As for the other 6 families, we don't have any deep grudges with them, so, Chung Wu said with a slight headache. However, he did not finish his sentence as he believed that Ao Jie would understand. As expected, Ao Jie's brows furrowed even more after he heard that. This was because no matter if it was the one family or the Yao family, they could no longer rob. Out of these 2 families, one had disappeared from the divinity while the other had just made a huge loss. There was nothing much to be gained from robbing them, so Ao Jie was worried. Seeing Ao Jie's worried expression, Uncle Long smiled and suggested, "I know someone who's definitely rich, and he has a grudge against us." "Who is it?" Upon hearing this, Ao Jie immediately became lively and energetic. "Fog Ice, Govan Robber," Uncle Long suggested. Chapter 2003. Entering the house, too. Her? No, I can't afford to offend that woman now. Ao Jie rejected him without thinking. "TSK, I thought you were not afraid of anything." "So it wasn't he?" Uncle Long provoked. "Trying to goad me is useless. I can't even wait to avoid her, so why would I send myself to her? Isn't that the same as seeking death?" Ao Jie said with a face full of fear. "There's no one richer than her in the divine realm." "AI, what a pity." Uncle Long sighed. "Rhymice." It sounded like a woman's name. Chung Wu, who was at the side, was confused when he heard their conversation because he had no idea who Wu Xian was. However, when he saw that one of them was exclaiming and the other was showing fear, he made a bold guess that Wu Xian was most likely in a relationship with Ao Jie. Hence, he came to an important conclusion. Ao Jie probably owed a woman a love debt. In the end, he also sighed. You can't owe a woman a debt. Otherwise, he would be crushed to pieces. However, things were clearly not as simple as Chung Wu had guessed. Uncle Long and Ao Jie did not know how to read minds. Otherwise, they would have given Chung Wu a good beating. After settling the Yao family's matter, Uncle Long and Ao Jie bade farewell to Chung Wu and returned to the Lung family's main residence on the mountain. Time passed. In the blink of an eye, the Yao clan building had been open for business for 3 months. In the past 3 months, the Yao clan had earned a lot of money. However, Their main sources of income were the delicacies and the auctions they had arranged. They had not earned much from the special services. After the Yao family's people were rescued, it was Potion's subordinates who took on the exclusive service. However, these people all looked fierce, so not many people dared to ask for their service. Except for a few heavy-mouthed people, their business was very poor. But for these men, this was exactly what they wanted. Uncle Long turned a blind eye to their laziness and unwelcoming because he had made money. After all, these people had come for nothing. They didn't use much money, so he didn't care so much. And the current Yao clan house was no longer related to brothels. However, Uncle Long didn't mind. Although the brothel could make money, he was making much more money than the brothel, so he was happy to do so. In short, it was good as long as there was money to be earned. If the business was bad, he would have to think of another way. But looking at the current situation, the business of the Yao clan building was booming, so he didn't have to worry at all. Therefore, he just had to lie in bed and count the money every day. But now, he definitely belonged to the type of person who would count money until his hands cramped. However, other than gourmet food and auctions, the Yao clan house had added 2 new services, and that was pill and equipment refining. However, the remuneration he requested for those services was extremely high because the Yao clan house had promised that the success rate would be above 80%, regardless of the pill or equipment. Unfortunately, after the launch of this convenience service, the business was bleak. In the garden of the Lung family's main residence, Lung Ruoxue and the demon had just walked into the garden when they heard a sorrowful sigh. Lung Ruoxue felt helpless. This was because the voice was Uncle Long's. Uncle Long had repeated the same words countless times. It seemed that ever since the Yao clan had introduced pill and tool refining services, Uncle Long had started to worry. AI, why isn't there anyone here to refine pills or weapons? Uncle Long muttered to himself for the umpteenth time. Upon hearing this, Ao Jia, Master Ning, the first elder of the Craftsmen's Guild, and the others in the garden did what they were doing with calm faces. They were not affected by him at all because they were used to hearing him. His ears were getting calluses from listening to them. Uncle Long, Lung Ruoxue called out after sighing. Little girl, you're here. AI, there's no business with a new service. Uncle Long said with a bitter face. This is normal. Lung Ruoxue consoled Uncle Long. That's right. Uncle Long, the remuneration you set is too high. How can business be good? The first elder agreed. Ever since the pill and equipment refining services were launched, Uncle Long had set a sky-high price without even blinking. Even if it was just ordinary pills and equipment, the price was still sky-high. It would be strange if business was good. However, Uncle Long had his own reasons for doing so. After all, if the Yao clan's alchemy and smithing remuneration was not much different from the other alchemists and blacksmiths, the other alchemists and blacksmiths would have to start with a success rate of over 80%. He was quite grateful to Uncle Long for this. This way, the other alchemists and blacksmiths would not be affected too much. At least, they would not go hungry. However, at the same time, their chances of refining high-grade pills would also be reduced. This had both advantages and disadvantages. However, he had no choice. This was the reality. Hi, I still think it's a little low. Uncle Long said indifferently after listening to the first elder. It's indeed a little low. At this time, the demon spoke. Ugh. When they heard someone echo Uncle Long's words, black lines immediately appeared on the foreheads of the few people present. They thought to themselves, are these 2 people planning to not make a business for 3 years and make a living for 3 years once they do? Seeing that someone agreed with him, Uncle Long was so excited that he jumped in front of the evildoer and said, Kid, you have good eyes. How could the price I set be high? I've decided that starting from tomorrow, the prices of alchemy and smithing will double. It's going to increase. I say, old whale, you really have money in your eyes. As soon as Uncle Dragon finished speaking, Ao Jia couldn't help but click his tongue. Of course it will increase. Otherwise, how can we display the status of our Yao clan buildings, exclusive alchemist and blacksmith? Uncle Long said with wide eyes. Then, he changed the topic and said, Why are you still here? Hurry up and go home. I don't welcome you here. Uncle Long caught up with him again. This was definitely not the first time he had chased Ao Jie away. However, Ao Jie was enjoying his life here, so how could he bear to leave? Hence, he ignored Uncle Long's words and changed the topic. Little girl, what are we having for dinner tonight? When she heard Ao Jie's question, Lung Roashua thought to herself, what a long conversation. However, she still replied politely, we'll have a buffet tonight. Yes, yes. Ao Jie nodded in satisfaction. He only knew about the concept of buffets after he came here. However, he liked it very much because buffets meant that he could eat whatever he wanted. He was a carnivore and definitely did not like to eat vegetables. The evening buffet is full of vegetarian dishes. Every meal in the future will be the same. Uncle Long added, not wanting to see Ao to being too proud. Chapter 2004. Entering the house. 3. Ao Jie was furious when he heard that. On what basis? Ao Jie jumped 3 times and his face turned red. Wasn't it too cruel to let carnivores be vegetarians? Vegetables are good for your health, especially carrots. So, you should eat more. Uncle Long suggested kindly. He knew that Ao Jie hated carrots the most. Damn it, I'm not a rabbit. Why would I eat carrots? Ao Jie gritted his teeth in anger. He really wanted to bite someone. Carrots have high nutritional value, so don't be picky. Uncle Long laughed smugly. Hearing this, Ao Jie was so angry that his chest heaved up and down. It was obvious that he was furious and was brewing his battle intent. Lung Roashue and the rest immediately left the battlefield upon seeing this. They did not want to be affected by the fight between the two of them. This was not the first time such a scene had happened. In the end, no one knew how the two of them managed to settle the food. The dinner was all dishes made with carrots as the main ingredient. There were carrot pancakes, carrot soup, carrot scrambled eggs, and so on. When Lung Roashue and the rest saw so many carrot dishes, they immediately fell silent. It looked like they would have to eat carrots too. Woo! Everyone glanced at Uncle Long with resentment. Then, they picked up their chopsticks unwillingly and ate in small bites. Ao Jie, who was also having a hard time eating, looked at the others' forced smiles. Suddenly, it was as if he had found his fellow brothers in distress. He became energetic. Oomph, wasn't it just a carrot? He ate. Anyway, there was someone to eat with him. So what was he afraid of? As Ao Jie thought about it, he looked at the carrots more affectionately. He also felt that the carrots did not taste that bad. However, everyone ate surprisingly little for this meal. In the next few days, their main course became carrots. At the end of the meal, everyone felt nauseated at the sight of the carrots. However, due to Uncle Long's power, they did not dare to voice their grievances. Many of them even used the excuse that they were not hungry and hid in their rooms when it was mealtime. They did not dare to take a step out. Otherwise, Uncle Long would definitely lecture them not to waste food and then force them to eat it. It was terrifying just thinking about it, so everyone became otakus for a while. However, there was one person who could not withstand Uncle Long's powerful attacks, and that was Ao Jie. Hence, every time it was mealtime, the same scene would play out outside Ao Jie's room. It's time to eat. Standing outside Ao Jie's door, Uncle Long said expressionlessly, I'm not hungry. Ao Jie replied from behind the door. He had to give a response when Uncle Long came to look for him. Otherwise, that shameless guy would break in directly. So, he couldn't play dumb even if he wanted to. He felt so wronged. We're not eating because we're hungry. We're just trying to satisfy our appetite. So, don't be shy and come with me. Let's go eat. Uncle Long was obviously non-negotiable. Every time Uncle Long said that, Ao Jie had to walk out of the room unwillingly because the next step would mean that Uncle Long was going to use violence. Seeing that each meal was only for 2 people, Ao Jie wanted to cry, but had no tears. This meant that Uncle Long had specially prepared it for them, and most of the food for 2 would go into his stomach. This continued every day, but Ao Jie had no intention of leaving. However, even if Uncle Long was purposely picking on Ao Jie, he would not torture her stomach. Hence, every time he had a symbolic meal with Aojia, he would directly enter the universal bracelet to nourish himself. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue could only feel helpless. In the bracelet, as usual, Uncle Long was eating happily. Lung Ruoxue, who was at the side, saw this and couldn't help but ask, "Uncle Long, how long are you going to eat your carrot feast? If this continues, Godfather and the others will go crazy." "Oh, I want to eat tomorrow. I'll eat a green pepper feast instead," Uncle Long said with a smirk. Lung Ruoxue was speechless. Wasn't he still a noob? After not eating meat for so long, she saw that Aojia was about to turn into a rabbit. If he changed to eating green pepper, Aojia would probably vomit whenever he saw green vegetables. Finish the green peppers and then the eggplants. Uncle Long ignored Lung Ruoxue's reaction and continued. The moment Uncle Long said this, Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but feel disgusted in her heart. "You're too cruel. You're driving Aojia crazy." In reality, Aojia was on the verge of breaking down. Furthermore, Lung Ruoxue knew that every time Aojia finished his meal, he would eat other things like Uncle Long. However, Uncle Long would eat in his bracelet, while Aojia would be feasting in the land of demons. In just a few days, the number of low-level small beasts in the land of demons had decreased drastically. If this continued, the native beasts in the land of demons would have a problem because those were originally their food. "Little girl, are you going to plead for that guy?" Seeing Lung Ruoxue's conflicted expression, Uncle Long asked calmly. "It can be considered so." Lung Ruoxue nodded. The head butler of the family was Uncle Long, so she naturally had to give him some face. "Hee, don't worry, that guy can take it. He has thick skin and a big temper, so there's no harm in eating more vegetables," Uncle Long said with a smile. "Oh, Uncle Long, are you planning to force him to back off?" Lung Ruoxue asked curiously. Uncle Long had been chasing them away for a long time. However, Aojia had been thick-skinned enough to stay here. "I can't drive that guy away, unless he wants to leave," Uncle Long said helplessly. The reason why he did all these was to tease Aojia. That guy was too annoying sometimes. Then Uncle Long is doing all this for free? Lung Ruoxue was speechless. "I don't think so. At least I'm happy," Uncle Long said disapprovingly. All right. I'm sure Uncle Long must be very bored." Lung Ruoxue understood. Hee. It was quite boring recently. I don't even like to count money anymore, mainly because I can't count it all, Uncle Long said in an annoying tone. "Uncle Long, we have to keep a low profile." Lung Ruoxue realized that she had been feeling more helpless lately, and it was all because of Uncle Long. Yes, we have to keep a low profile so that others won't be jealous of us." Uncle Long nodded seriously. At this moment, Qingju's voice rang in their ears. "Sister, someone is looking for you outside," Qingju said. "Who is it?" Lung Ruoxue was puzzled. "Who would come? You'll know when you see it." Qingju kept them in suspense and then disappeared. "Little girl, they'll go with you to take a look?" Uncle Long asked curiously. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Then, she brought Uncle Long and the evildoer out of the bracelet. When they arrived at the living room, Lung Ruoxue saw the person sitting on a chair with his back facing them. That person seemed a little familiar. Cheng Wu, on the other hand, stood beside that person with a straight face, not saying a word. When he saw Lung Ruoxue, Cheng Wu immediately looked at the person sitting down with vigilance and said, "Miss, this guy said he's here to find you. He also said he'll stay here and cook for you." Cheng Wu's tone wasn't very good, because he had a deep hatred for this person. At this moment, the person who had his back to them turned around. When he saw Lung Ruoxue, he cried out in surprise, I've finally met you again." Woo! It really wasn't easy. Seeing this person, Lung Ruoxue's head started to hurt, and the evildoer's face immediately darkened. "Yo, isn't that the little guy from the Ji family?" The person who had come was Ji Yun. Although Uncle Long had not had much contact with him, he still had some impression of him. "Yup, I'm Ji Yun. Hello, senior." When Ji Yun saw Uncle Long, he greeted him with great respect. Although he had only met Uncle Long a few times, Uncle Long's strength gave him an unfathomable feeling. Therefore, in order to stay here smoothly, he had to please Uncle Long. "Hello. May I know why you've come to find my family's girl?" Uncle Long sized up Ji-yun and asked indifferently. Clearly, he had completely ignored Chung Wu's words. "I'm here to seek shelter with Shui. I want to stay here and wash my hands and make soup for her every day." Ji-yun went straight to the point. As he spoke, his cheeks were flushed red. He was very embarrassed to say such words. Upon hearing Ji-yun's words, Uncle Long's eyes widened in disbelief. He stared at Ji-yun as if he was looking at a rare animal. Then, he carefully sized him up. He thought to himself, this guy is quite bold. To dare to say such words, was this little thing not afraid that someone would kill her to silence her? One must know that he could clearly feel the low air pressure from certain someone. Even he, a reverent god, could not bear the cold temperature. After glancing at Uncle Long's reaction, Ji-yun looked at Lung Ruoxue with a wronged expression. Tears could be seen in his eyes as he said with a choked voice, "Shui-er, I have no home to return to. Will you take me in? Make yourself clear." Lung Ruoxue could also feel the chill from the demon as she asked with a headache. "I was driven out of the Ji family by my ancestor, so I don't have a home anymore. If you don't take me in, I can only wander the streets." Ji-yun's face was teary as he spoke in an extremely aggrieved manner. "Why?" Lung Ruoxue asked as she rubbed her forehead. "What do you mean, why?" Ji-yun didn't understand. "Why were you chased out of your house by your ancestor?" Lung Ruoxue asked directly. She could tell that she couldn't beat around the bush when speaking to Ji-yun. Otherwise, he would definitely play dumb. "He didn't allow me to see you and insisted that I go into seclusion. Naturally, I refused, so he drove me out and said that he didn't want to see me ever again. Sob, I don't have a home anymore." Ji-yun sobbed. However, after hearing his words, Lung Ruoxue was very suspicious of the old man's motive. Not only did he not allow him to leave, he even chased him out. Wasn't this self-contradictory? Chapter 2005. Bing Yao is injured. 1. More importantly, no matter what the old man's goal was, Ji-yun must not stay behind. Otherwise, she would never have a day of peace in her home. For the sake of her family's happiness, Lung Ruoxue had decided to sacrifice Ji-yun unconditionally. However, it was as if Ji-yun knew what she was thinking. Before Lung Ruoxue could even ask him to leave, his own tears started to flow down like the Yellow River. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue was helpless. What was this guy doing? She hadn't even said anything, and he was already crying. It was really a headache. Seeing Ji-yun bawling his eyes out, Lung Ruoxue couldn't bring herself to ask him to leave. However, the temperature around her was gradually dropping, causing her to feel fear and trepidation, as if she was walking on thin ice. AI, it's hard to be a human. It was even harder to be a kind woman. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but sigh. "Shui-er, don't chase me away. Other than your place, I really don't know where else I can go." Ji-yun's eyes silently rolled down as he sobbed. Hearing his words, Lung Ruoxue endured it again and again. In fact, she really wished that she could be more ruthless and kill Ji-yun, this little seedling that could bring harm to her family in the cradle. However, looking at Ji-yun's current pitiful appearance, if she really did that, it would seem a little unkind. In addition, the sky was almost dark. If she chased Ji-yun away, he might get lost in the land of demons. At that time, wouldn't she be in even more trouble? As she thought about it, Lung Ruoxue became more and more conflicted. She didn't dare to look at the ball of ice beside her. It was too cold, wasn't it? Seeing no reaction from Lung Ruoxue, Ji-yun was so nervous that his heart was in his throat. Sob, is Shui-er really that heartless? He didn't believe it. He was definitely going to stay here today. After making up his mind, Ji-yun cried even more fiercely. However, it was all silent crying, which made him look even more pitiful. "Shui-er, leave him to me." Just then, a heavenly voice rang out from outside the hall. At least it sounded like that to Lung Ruoxue's ears. Following the voice, Feng Moran walked in from outside with a smile on his face. The moment Lung Ruoxue saw him, she was overjoyed. It was as if she had found a life-saving straw. The joy on her beautiful face could not be concealed. "Big brother Feng, I'll leave that Ji-yun to you," said Lung Ruoxue hurriedly. With that, she pulled the large ice block beside her and disappeared. When Uncle Long saw that Lung Ruoxue was running faster than a rabbit, he sighed helplessly. Isn't he just a little fellow? Did Shui have to act like she had encountered a ferocious beast? With this thought in mind, he patted Ji-yun's shoulder in a consoling manner. Then, he left without another word. In the blink of an eye, only Feng Moran, Ji-yun, and Chengwu were left in the hall. However, Chengwu immediately left the living room, saying that he had something to attend to. At this moment, only Feng Moran and Ji-yun were left in the living room, staring at each other. "Hello, young Lord Ji," and Feng Moran. After sizing up Ji-yun for a while, Feng Moran introduced himself. "Hello," he said. Ji-yun's eyes were filled with tears, and they were red. "Young Lord Ji, if you're willing to listen to me, I have a way to make you stay here. Otherwise, I can't do anything." After the two introduced themselves, Feng Moran continued, "Then I'll listen to you." Ji-yun hesitated for a while before saying. In fact, he had agreed because he saw that the handsome man in front of him didn't look like Gui Shuli. "Very good, follow me." Feng Moran nodded in satisfaction and turned to Ji-yun. After he finished speaking, he turned and left. Seeing this, Ji-yun could only follow behind. Feng Moran led Ji-yun through many twists and turns, and finally, they arrived at a small courtyard. That small courtyard was located at the southern corner of the Lung family's main residence. Although it didn't look very conspicuous from the outside, it was fully equipped with all the essentials. Most importantly, there was a restriction in the courtyard. That was why he had brought Ji-yun here. If Ji-yun lived here, he wouldn't be able to enter and leave freely without the permission of the master. This was because this was the place that Lung Ruoxue had planned to punish his subordinate with a lower wall. Hence, he felt that this was the most suitable place for Ji-yun to live. From this, it could be seen that he had also been dyed black. Ji-yun didn't know the significance of this courtyard, but he was extremely grateful that Feng Moran was willing to take him in, allowing him to have the opportunity to stay by Shui's side. So, when Feng Moran told him that he would live here in the future, he agreed without a second thought. In fact, he had no choice but to agree. He was the one who wanted to stay here, so of course, they wouldn't treat him as a guest. So, although this courtyard was small and unremarkable, and couldn't be compared to the spacious and luxurious courtyard he had in the Ji family, there was Shui here and not there. Therefore, he was quite satisfied with this place. Unfortunately, his satisfaction did not last long before it turned into complete depression. What he didn't expect was that the gentle and handsome man would set him up. However, it was too late when he found out. Now, he had finally settled down in the Lung family as he had wished. After finishing with Ji-yun, Feng Moran left. For the next few days, Lung Ruoxue did not see Ji-yun appear in front of her. She thought that Ji-yun had already left. However, after hearing from Chengwu, she found out that Ji-yun had been lured by Big Brother Feng into a small courtyard with a restriction. Instantly, she looked at Feng Moran with a strange expression, causing Feng Moran to feel embarrassed. However, the evildoer was very satisfied with Feng Moran's performance. As long as Ji-yun didn't appear in front of him, he didn't care where he lived. On a certain day, everyone gathered in the garden. When they inadvertently talked about Ji-yun, everyone expressed their deep sympathy for him. "Shui, how long do you plan to keep that little fellow from the Ji family?" The master of the Ning family asked curiously. "I didn't lock him up." When Lung Ruoxue heard her godfather's words, black lines appeared on her forehead. She thought to herself, could it be that everyone thinks that I'm the one who incited Big Brother Feng to lock her up? Then wouldn't she be more wrong than Do-yi? After locking him up for so long, I think it's time to get him out and let him out for some fresh air. Little brat Yi, you won't be so stingy, right? That little fellow is no threat to you. Uncle Long smiled and pleaded. He really felt that the house was not lively enough recently, and it was quite boring. Therefore, he wanted to get Ji-yun out to add some liveliness to the house. who asked Ao Jie to always leave early and return late. This caused him to have no opponents, even if he wanted to find someone to quarrel with. I know, since Uncle Long has pleaded for him, let him leave the small courtyard. The demon relaxed. In truth, he was only annoyed by Ji Yun's constant fawning over Shui. Other than that, he truly didn't place Ji Yun in his eyes. However, the reason why he gave face to Uncle Long was not because he did not have his own considerations. During the time that he had locked up Ji Yun, he had been secretly observing the situation in the small courtyard with his divine sense. He discovered that although Ji Yun was somewhat depressed, his feelings for Shui seemed to have become even stronger. In this case, there was no point in imprisoning Ji Yun. He could not let that annoying fellow be completely convinced either. Since that was the case, he might as well do Uncle Long a favor and wait for that person to come out before he dealt him a good blow. He had to let that person see the gap between him and himself so that he would know the difficulty and retreat. Chapter 2006. Bing Yao is injured too. This thought had been in his mind for some time, but no one had interceded on Ji Yun's behalf, so he couldn't take the initiative to speak up. Today, he just happened to push the boat along with the current. After obtaining the demon's approval, Chung Wu was ordered to release Ji Yun. Then, he arranged for Ji Yun to stay in the guest room. However, when Lung Ruoxue and the rest saw Ji Yun, they were rather shocked. Oh my God, was this haggard, sorrowful man in front of her the silly, heartless Ji Yun? It couldn't have been switched, right? Everyone was extremely suspicious. However, when Ji Yun saw Lung Ruoxue, he said with tears in his eyes, "Shui, you're so cruel. You actually turned a blind eye to me and even allowed others to lock me up." Ugh. After hearing Ji Yun's words, Lung Ruoxue was speechless. Was Ji Yun complaining to her? However, she would definitely stand on Big Brother Feng's side. However, seeing Ji Yun's current state, she didn't want to deal him a heavy blow. Thus, she could only remain silent. Seeing Lung Ruoxue's lack of reaction, Ji Yun felt even more aggrieved. All right, kid of the Ji family, you're an uninvited guest. Other than the fact that you can't move freely, no one has treated you badly. So, stop pretending to be pitiful. No one here will pity you. The master of the Ning family explained to his precious goddaughter. In fact, he also felt that this kid of the Ji family was too pretentious. It was good to lock him up so that he wouldn't get into trouble. However, it was no big deal to let him out. With him around, what big waves could this kid cause? Master Ning's words had hurt Ji Yun's glass heart, but he knew that he was an outsider, so it was only right that he didn't stand on his side. After consoling himself like this, his mood improved a lot. Then, Ji Yun immediately became lively again. He even spoke to Uncle Long and the others with great enthusiasm. "Seniors, I'll go make some delicious food for you to taste my cooking." After he finished speaking, he didn't give anyone a chance to object and ran off without a trace. Does this guy know the kitchen? Uncle Long couldn't help but ask as he watched Ji Yun's hurried back. He asked me on the way here. Chung Wu cleared their doubts. This kid is probably going to roast meat again. No, I have to go back to my room and hide. Lu Feng hurriedly stood up when he heard this. Although they had been eating vegetables at home recently, that didn't mean that he wanted to eat roasted meat, especially if it was cooked by Ji Yun. He had long since been injured from eating. "I'll go back to my room too." Seeing this, Louis West stood up and said, "What are you guys doing? Isn't it just barbecuing meat? Is there a need to scare you like this?" Uncle Long said with a faint smile. He had long heard of Ji Yun's famous roast meat, but he had never tasted it personally. "Uncle Long, roasted meat is like vegetables to us now, so it's really hard for us to swallow. I won't talk to you anymore. I have to go back to my room and hide." After Lu Feng finished speaking, he stood up and wanted to leave. However, he was stopped by Uncle Long. Uncle Long said disapprovingly, "Look at you, you haven't eaten meat for days. While old man Ao isn't here, we can secretly eat. So you can't leave." Uncle Long was very serious. "Uncle Long." Lu Feng was about to defend himself, but before he could finish, Ao Jie's voice rang out in the courtyard. "Hurry up and help." When the crowd heard this, they hurriedly left the garden and walked towards the main entrance. They saw Ao Jie standing at the entrance of the courtyard covered in blood. However, he was not alone. He was carrying someone on his shoulder, and that person's body had long been stained red with blood, and it was still dripping blood. I say, "Old man Ao, what's wrong with you? Did he go to rob someone?" Seeing this, Uncle Long couldn't help but guess. The concern in his eyes disappeared in a flash. "It's a long story. Hurry up and help me," Ao Jie urged. When everyone saw this, they quickly went forward to help the person that Ao Jie was carrying down. "Old man Ao, are you injured?" Uncle Long looked at the bloodied man, and then at Ao Jie. "I'm fine. This blood is his," Ao Jie said hurriedly. "He's seriously injured. Don't you have healing pills on you? Why didn't you give him one?" Uncle Long really didn't understand. He had already saved her, but he didn't give her any healing pills. What was the difference between this and not saving her? He did, but the healing pills he had couldn't stop him. "Hurry up and think of a way. I can't let him die," Ao Jie said worriedly. Upon hearing this, Lung Ruoxue, Shina, and Luiyue immediately squatted down and curiously examined the condition of the injured person. However, they were shocked to discover that the wounds on the injured person's body were very strange. They were actually web-like, and the wounds were as thick as chopsticks. They were very dense and round, and fresh blood was continuously seeping out from them. At the rate of his blood loss, he would probably die soon. "How is it? Do you have any way to stop the bleeding?" Ao Jie asked worriedly. If the bleeding could not be stopped, his life force would be depleted no matter how strong he was. "He'll try." Lung Ruoxue took out a supreme-grade healing pill and stuffed it into the bloody man's mouth. After observing for a while, she was disappointed because the blood was still flowing and had even stained the courtyard. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue was depressed. If even the best-grade healing pills were not effective on this person, she really didn't know what else could save him. For a moment, she was at a loss on what to do with this person's injuries. Since Lung Ruoxue's supreme-grade healing medicinal pill did not work, Shinua and Luiyue also expressed that they were helpless. Seeing that they were helpless, Ao Jie was anxious. "What should we do? He can't die." Ao Jie was like an ant on a hot pan as he walked around in the courtyard and muttered to himself. At this time, the curious first elder gently peeled away the hair covering the bloody man's face and wiped the blood off his face. He suddenly turned pale with fright. Little Shui... The great elder's eyes were wide open, and he could not speak. Although this person had many injuries on his body and face, he could still recognize this person's identity at a glance. "Senior brother." The first elder's reaction caused Lung Ruoxue, who was deep in thought, to lower her head subconsciously. When she saw the face of the bloody man, her expression changed drastically. This bloody man was none other than her eldest senior brother, Bing Yao, whom she had not heard from for a long time. However, Lung Ruoxue would never have dreamed that she would meet her senior brother under such circumstances. How did senior brother end up like this? Lung Ruoxue's heart clenched. Although she had not been with her senior brother for a long time, she had already regarded him as her family. Now that she saw her senior brother lying unconscious in a pool of blood, her heart ached. "Little girl, he's your senior brother?" Hearing Lung Ruoxue call him senior brother, Ao Jie's eyes widened in disbelief. Chapter 2007. Bing Yao is injured 3. What's going on? Lung Ruoxue nodded and asked Ao Jie. "I found him at the foot of the mountain in the land of demons. He was unconscious at the time, so I had to carry him up the mountain. I didn't expect him to be your senior brother. The world is really small," Ao Jie said with a strange expression. After he finished speaking, he looked at Uncle Long without saying anything. "Shui, let's carry him into the guest room first and think of a way," Uncle Long suggested. "All right," Lung Ruoxue nodded. In reality, after she discovered that this person was her senior brother, she, who was always calm, was a little out of her wits. Fortunately, Uncle Long had reminded her. After sending Bing Yao to the guest room, Lung Ruoxue suddenly thought of contacting Qing Ju. After telling him about senior brother's situation, Qing Ju fell silent. After a long time, Sister, Bing Yao has been poisoned by a special poison. If we want to cure him, we have to find the culprit who poisoned him. Otherwise, Qing Ju did not finish his sentence, but Lung Ruoxue understood what he was trying to say. Poisoned? What kind of poison is so strange that it can cause such an injury? Lung Ruoxue really didn't understand. However, now wasn't the time to ask for details. Qing Ju, no matter what poison senior brother is suffering from, I'll try my best to cure him. However, the most important thing now is to stop the bleeding. Do you have any good ideas? Lung Ruoxue continued. Use freeze, Qing Ju said after thinking. Frozen. Lung Ruoxue was pleasantly surprised. This was a good idea. Why didn't she think of it before? It seemed that concern really made him confused. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue quickly cut off the connection with Qing Ju and cast a freezing spell on Bing Yao. After a while, Bing Yao turned into a transparent ice sculpture. Looking at Bing Yao, who was frozen on the bed, Lung Ruoxue felt that it was not suitable for him to stay in the guest room. The most suitable place for him should be a place with ice. That way, it would be better to keep his body temperature. Shui, send him to the endless ocean, my home. I have a 10,000-year-old ice bed at home. It's perfect for him to be placed there. Seeing through Lung Ruoxue's thoughts, Uncle Long hurriedly explained. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. Ao Jie said anxiously. The anxiety on his face was no less than Lung Ruoxue's. When he saw that Bing Yao was frozen, he understood what Lung Ruoxue meant. This was indeed the best solution so far. Otherwise, Bing Yao would die from blood loss sooner or later. After making up their mind, Lung Ruoxue, the demon, Uncle Long, and Ao Jie sent Bing Yao to the endless ocean, while Master Ning and the others stayed in the land of evil demons to look after the house. When they arrived at the endless ocean, Uncle Long immediately set up a transparent protective barrier for Lung Ruoxue and the other two. Then he brought them to the bottom of the ocean and to his home. When they arrived at the entrance of the house, Uncle Long made a few hand seals before his lair was revealed to Lung Ruoxue and the other two. Uncle Long's house was very simple. It was a room that looked like a secret room. There were no decorations in it, only a 10,000-year ice bed that emitted a biting, cold air. When Lung Ruoxue saw the bed, she immediately moved her senior brother out from the room she was in and placed him on the bed. Looking at the handsome man who had turned into an ice sculpture, Lung Ruoxue felt extremely upset. In her memory, Bing Yao had always been like a god, but now that godlike man was lying on the bed lifelessly. She couldn't even ask what happened to her senior brother, which made her feel helpless. Little Shui, she's settled down, so you can rest assured, it's absolutely safe here, and he'll also let the beasts of the endless sea guard him well. Let's leave, Uncle Long suggested, not wanting Lung Ruoxue to continue being sad. Thank you, Uncle Long, Lung Ruoxue said gratefully. Silly girl, why are you being so polite with Uncle Long? Uncle Long pretended to be unhappy. That's right, you don't have to be polite with this old thing. Ao Jie joked. He also felt that the atmosphere was a little off, so he could only echo. Lung Ruoxue forced a smile. Then, the four of them left the endless ocean and returned to their home on the mountain in the land of evil demons. As soon as they returned to their room, Lung Ruoxue could not wait any longer and went into the bracelet to ask Qing Ju about her senior brother's situation. When Qing Ju saw how anxious Lung Ruoxue was, he had no choice but to tell her everything. Sister, you'd better be prepared. Before they could officially start, Qing Ju warned. Say it. How can I cure Shi Xiang's poison? When Lung Ruoxue saw Qing Ju's serious expression, she knew that the poison in her senior brother's body would not be easy to cure. However, as long as there was a chance of survival, she would not give up. Sister, the poison in Bing Yao's body is a kind of flower poison. It is similar to the flower poison that Sueju was once poisoned with, but it is more than 1,000 times stronger. So, if we want to cure Bing Yao, we have to find the flower that poisoned him. But the flower is very powerful. Qing Ju's voice became softer and softer as he spoke. What flower is it? Lung Ruoxue asked coldly. Her face was filled with coldness. It was actually flower poison again. Oof. There were so many poisonous flowers in the divine realm that she even had the thought of destroying them. It's the blood cherry blossom, Ju said helplessly. Although he did not want to tell his sister, he knew that if he did not let her know, she would be in greater danger. After Bing Yao was frozen, he did not suggest his sister to put Bing Yao into the bracelet for safety reasons. Once the poison entered the soul, it would be able to control the person who was poisoned. It might even let the person know where he was. He could not take the risk. It's the blood cherry blossom again. When Lung Ruoxue heard the words blood cherry blossom, the fury in her heart rose to the highest point. She had to admit that she was not compatible with the birth dates of those flowers and plants. Otherwise, why would she hear the words flower poison and blood cherry blossom everywhere she went? Sister, the blood cherry blossoms we saw in the secret realm were only clones. If we want to cure Bingio's poison, we have to use our original bodies. Ju continued. Oh, what part of the blood cherry blossom was needed? Where can I find its main body? Lung Ruoxue asked. I only need one blood cherry blossom petal. Ju replied. As for Lung Ruoxue's other question, it was ignored by him. However, even if he didn't answer, Lung Ruoxue would still want to know. You still haven't told me where I can find the true body of the blood cherry blossom. Lung Ruoxue reminded. She could tell that Ju was playing dumb and did not want to tell her. Big sister, you're still too weak right now. You won't be able to obtain the petals of the blood cherry blossoms. Ju did not want to dampen his sister's enthusiasm, but he did not want to lie to her either. How would I know if I don't try? You just have to tell me where I can find that flower. Lung Ruoxue asked anxiously. God Lord's mansion. Ju stole a glance at the demon's expression. He only dared to tell Lung Ruoxue when he saw that he did not object. The Divine Master's estate? Lung Ruoxue said indifferently. That lousy flower was indeed related to the Divine Master. She had guessed it before, but Ju had confirmed it for her. Schwerer, the blood cherry blossom, is actually the main body of the fog. At this moment, the demon revealed a big secret. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, her eyes widened in shock as she looked at the evildoer in disbelief. In the past, she had thought that the blood cherry blossom was related to the God Lord's estate. However, she had only thought that the evil flower was raised by the God Lord's estate. She had never thought that the flower was actually Fog Phoenix herself. That's right. She remembered that the demon had once mentioned that the fog ice was a seed. However, she had not linked the blood cherry blossom to the fog ice itself. Now it seemed that this was her mistake. Wu Jing's strength may not be comparable to Yu's, but most of Yes' abilities have been taught to her. Therefore, her strength is also unfathomable. In fact, I don't even know what level her strength has reached. Therefore, I don't want you to fight her now. The demon held and said softly. However, he did not finish his words and did not know how to continue. I cannot save my senior brother, no matter how powerful that rhyme ice is. Lung Ruoxue understood the demon's meaning. She did not want to fight against a strong enemy now, but she was afraid that her senior brother could not wait. He'll help you get her flower petals. The demon understood Er's feelings and naturally would not let take the risk. Therefore, he was the most suitable person to go. You? Demon, I know you're worried about me, but how can I not be worried about you? You are from the 9 Nether prison. If you fight with Wu Xian in the divine world, you will have to use your original power. What if the laws of heaven and earth punish you? Lung Ruoxue asked worriedly. She remembered the demon saying that the heaven-earth law had many restrictions on him. Hence, he could not move freely. More importantly, the demon was not willing to let her take risks, and she did not want him to either. However, with the demon's current strength, it would be difficult for him to deal with fog ice. Furthermore, going to her lair was no different from courting death. So, she couldn't agree. Don't worry. As long as I don't destroy the divine realm's order and defense, the laws of heaven and earth won't do anything to me. After all, the divine realm is different from those lower-level planes. It's not that fragile. The demon smiled and comforted her. Shue'er's worry for him made him very happy. Chapter 2008. Before departure, 1 really. After hearing the demon's words, Lung Ruoxue was half convinced and half suspicious. She continued, "Then he'll go with you?" Shue, the evildoer, looked at Lung Ruoxue with slight disapproval. "It's settled then." Lung Ruoxue gave the final word. "All right then. However, you have to listen to everything I say," the demon said after thinking for a while. "All right." Lung Ruoxue nodded her head delightedly. It was fine as long as she was allowed to go. Following that, Lung Ruoxue's beautiful eyes turned to Qingju and asked, "Qingju, is there a time limit to the poison in Senior Brother's body?" Under normal temperature, the blood cherry blossom poison will definitely control the person within half a year. However, Bing Yao has already been frozen, so the poison in his body will not spread for the time being. However, the sooner we get the antidote, the better. Qingju frowned and explained. "Half a year? If it's at room temperature and the wound can't stop bleeding, can it last for half a year?" Lung Ruoxue asked in confusion. To her, no matter if it was a human or a god, losing blood was a huge problem. It's possible. The life force of a god is very strong. Half a year is not a problem. Once the poison of the blood cherry blossom takes control of the poisoned person, the blood will stop flowing out. However, at that time, there will be no way to cure the poisoned person. Qingju continued. Oh, Lung Ruoxue understood. However, no matter how long her senior brother could last, she knew that she had to get her hands on the blood cherry blossom petals as soon as possible. Her senior brother was like a banished immortal. If he were to continue lying on the bed lifelessly, her heart would ache. "Sister, I won't stop you if you want to go to the Divine Master's estate. However, you'd better let Huanshan know that he's more familiar with the Divine Master's estate than I am. Things will be much easier with him leading the way," Qingju reminded. In addition, that guy's strength was almost undamaged, so he could at least be a hired thug. Therefore, Huanshan was naturally used as a labor force. And Lung Ruoxue nodded and left the bracelet with the evildoer. At the same time, in another room, Uncle Long and Ao Jie were sitting opposite each other, but neither of them spoke first. After a long while, Ao Jie finally spoke first. "I say, old whale, what are you thinking?" Ao Jie looked at the calm Uncle Long and could not help asking, "What do you mean by what I think?" Uncle Long asked indifferently. "Of course it's that little girl. Her identity." Ao Jie was only halfway through his sentence when he looked at Uncle Long with anticipation. "Didn't she call him Senior Brother Bing Yao?" Uncle Long said, unmoving. "I know. I mean, isn't she also that person's disciple?" Ao Jie said with uncertainty. He had not spent as much time with Lung Ruoxue as Uncle Long, and Lung Ruoxue rarely appeared in front of him. Hence, he did not know Lung Ruoxue very well. "Aren't you talking nonsense?" Uncle Dragon glanced at Ao Jie and said with slight disdain, You already knew?" Ao Jie's eyes widened as he asked. He could not help but think, no wonder this guy is with that little girl. So he knew about that little girl's identity. This time, he knew the truth. "I really don't know." Uncle Long shrugged his shoulders and said innocently, "You don't know? Then why are you still so calm?" Ao Jie's eyes were still wide open. He did not believe Uncle Long's words. "What else could I have done?" Uncle Long asked. Ao Jie was at a loss for words. What else could he do? It seemed that he was really too agitated. However, he was also shocked by this fact. He didn't expect that person to actually take in a disciple. What should we do next? Then, Ao Jie asked again. He was out of ideas, as this matter had a huge impact on him. "Well, wait and see." Uncle Long replied with 4 words and put on a calm expression. What do you mean?" Ao Jie didn't understand why they had been enduring for so many years. Now that he had finally found Bing Yao and knew that he had an apprentice, how could he hold back? "It's the literal meaning," Uncle Long said calmly. "Don't you want to avenge that person?" Ao Jie quickly asked after hearing Uncle Long's words. "Did I ever say that?" Uncle Dragon glanced at Ao Jie and smiled. "Didn't you say to wait and see? Doesn't that mean we want fight?" Ao Jie said. "At least, That was how he understood it. As long as he said the words, wait and see, he did not know how long it would drag on. It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. We've waited for so many years. What's the point of waiting for this little bit more? Besides, Bing Yao is injured, and Shui is not strong enough. This is not the best time for revenge. Uncle Long said calmly. Now he knew why Huanshan had acknowledged Shui as its master. It seemed that the legendary artifact spirit had long known of Shui-Er's identity. Otherwise, he would not have secretly followed her out of the divine master's estate. Now that he was master yes disciple, everything made more sense. AI, that's true. Ao sighed heavily and continued, Old Whale, what do we do about Bing Yao's injuries? If he continues to be like this, it will be a great loss for us. You don't need to say that. However, we're not alchemists, so even if we want to save him, we can't do anything. However, I know that Shui will definitely think of a way, so we just have to listen to her. Uncle Long said. He was very confident in this and believed that Shui would have a way. Are you that confident in that little girl? Uncle Dragon's words surprised Ao Jia. He didn't expect the old whale to have such a high evaluation of the little girl. It was really out of his expectations. Of course. So we just have to wait. Uncle Long said with certainty. His deep eyes seemed to be looking into the distance, making it impossible to tell what he was thinking. Then let's wait. I hope your guess is correct. Compared to this old whale, Ao Jia's confidence in Lung Ruoxue was obviously lacking. However, this was also human nature. After all, he had only spent a short time with Lung Ruoxue. Naturally, he could not understand her too well. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Then, Lung Ruoxue's voice was heard. Uncle Long, are you there? It's me. Lung Ruoxue said from outside the door. Shui, come in. Uncle Long said loudly. When Ao Jia heard Lung Ruoxue's voice, he could not help but sigh. Speak of the devil. Following that, Lung Ruoxue and the demon pushed the door open and entered. After finding a place to sit down, Lung Ruoxue went straight to the point and said to Uncle Long, Uncle Long, the evildoer and I will be leaving for a few days. We'll leave the family to you. Leave? Where to? Uncle Long asked with a faint smile. I'm going to Imperial City. Lung Ruoxue explained with a smile. She didn't want Uncle Long to worry, so she naturally didn't plan on telling him that she was going to steal the flower petals from the Divine Master's residence. Chapter 2009. Before Departure 2. The Imperial City. Hearing this, Uncle Long frowned and said, Little girl, Yu City isn't peaceful right now. If you go now, aren't you walking right into a trap? If Wu Jing finds out, she won't let you off. Uncle Long sighed after saying this. He thought of the black-clothed men who attacked a while ago. Later, he was sure that those people were the dogs of the Fog Ripple. At that time, the Fog Ripple had sent more than one group of people to the land of demons. However, those black-clothed men were those who could not see the light of day. On the surface, there were other people, but there was no need to make a move on the people in the light. Those people's mission was only to investigate and monitor their every move. Later, after Patian and the others came, those people also disappeared. This fact had always puzzled him. However, he had always been a person who went with the flow. He would not force himself to figure out the things that he could not understand. So he quickly threw this matter to the back of his mind. But now that Shui said that she was going to Yu City, he had no choice but to reconsider. Now, he could basically confirm that the Divine Lord's estate's actions after the elite competition had a lot to do with Huan Chen's disappearance. However, Wu Ling probably couldn't be sure who had Huan Chen. That was why she was like a lunatic and vented her anger on a few small families. That woman definitely didn't take Lung Ruoxue seriously. Otherwise, she wouldn't have monitored her on the surface and sent people to attack her in the dark. As for the other reason, it should be related to the mystic realm. However, that woman would never have thought that the person she sent would not only fail to get rid of Lung Ruoxue, but also become their captive. This fact would probably make Ripple Mist die of anger, right? When he thought of this, he knew that he could not let Shui take the risk. Shui Uncle Long doesn't allow you to go to Yu City. After some thought, Uncle Long said with certainty, Uncle Long, I'm sorry. I know you're doing this for my own good, but I have a reason to go. Lung Ruashua said stubbornly. Oh, then give me a reason that can convince me. Don't try to brush me off. If you can't get past me, I won't let you go there. Uncle Long deliberately pulled a long face to prove that he was serious. Hearing this, Lung Ruashua felt conflicted. However, the demon was very happy. From his perspective, it was best if Shue did not go. Who asked him to worry about her safety? He. The demon laughed to himself. Now he was really grateful to Uncle Long, who was blocking his way. After hesitating for a long time, Lung Ruashua made up her mind and said, Uncle Long, I'm going to use City for Senior Brother. There's something there that can cure Senior Brother's poison. Really? Upon hearing this, Ao Jia was overjoyed. He stood up from his seat in excitement. It's true, Lung Ruashua nodded, but she couldn't help but think to herself, why is this fellow even more excited than me when he heard that there's something in Imperial City that can cure Senior Brother's poison? This wasn't normal. Lung Ruashua was filled with doubts. Then let's go together, Ao Jia said, without thinking after getting a positive answer. Ao Jia's initiative really made Lung Ruashua dumbfounded. This guy, what was going on? Lung Ruashua did not believe that he would be so loyal. After all, in her eyes, her senior brother was only a stranger to Ao Jia. It's a deal then, we'll go together. Seeing that Lung Ruashua did not have much of a reaction, Ao Jia thought that she was not willing to let him follow her. Hence, before the other party rejected him, he decided to make the decision without allowing Lung Ruashua to object. Shue, where's the thing you're looking for in your city? Uncle Long calmly asked the most important question. He wasn't that easy to fool. In the Divine Master's estate, Lung Ruashua looked at the astute Uncle Long and sighed in frustration. Uncle Long was really hard to deal with. God Lord's mansion. After hearing Lung Ruashua's words, Uncle Long narrowed his eyes. In fact, he didn't have to guess much. After all, there weren't many people in the world who could hurt Bing Yao. Shue, Uncle Long will go with you. Uncle Long continued without thinking. Now that he was sure that the thing that could cure Bing Yao was in the Divine Master's residence, he would not let Shue and the evil man go. However, with him following them, he would not object to Shue going there. After all, he knew Shue's methods. Uncle Long, I'm planning to let you stay at home. Lung Ruashua said honestly. Little girl, if it were any other place, Uncle Long naturally wouldn't have to follow. But the Divine Lord's manor is different. There are many experts there. It's too dangerous for the two of you to go. If Old Man Ao and I follow, we can at least guarantee the safety of the two of you. Uncle Long said with a serious face. The Divine Master's residence. He had not been there for many years. All right then. Lung Ruashua had no choice but to agree. She was very clear that if she didn't agree to let Uncle Long and Ao Jia follow her, the two of them would definitely not let her leave so easily. After explaining the matter to them, Lung Ruashua and the demon planned to go back and make preparations. They would set off tomorrow. However, before they left, Ao Jia blocked their way. He looked at Lung Ruashua and mumbled something, not knowing what he wanted to say. Uncle Ao, what's wrong? Do you have something to say? Lung Ruashua's face was filled with question marks. Little girl, you call Bing Yao senior brother, so you're Master Yes disciple too? Ao Jia gathered his courage and asked. Even though he knew that he might be asking nonsense, he had to be clear. You know my senior brother. Lung Ruashua made her guesses. She recalled Ao Jia's reaction when her senior brother was injured. Now that she thought about it, this was the only explanation. I know him. Ao Jia was very honest. He did not plan to hide this from the little girl. Then, he added, the old whale and I both know each other. Ao Jia's words shocked Lung Ruashua. Even though she had guessed that Ao Jia might have some sort of relationship with her senior brother, she did not expect Uncle Long to know her senior brother as well. Could she say that the world was too small? Little girl, since you're Bingio's junior sister and Master Yes disciple, we won't hide it from you. In fact, the old whale, and I used to be Master Yes followers, but we rarely show ourselves in public, so not many people know our identities. After hesitating for a while, Ao Jia continued. Could it be you're my master's subordinates? Lung Ruoxu's eyes widened as she asked in disbelief. No. Ao Jia denied Lung Ruoxu's question, but made her confused. What did Ao Jia mean? Didn't they say that he and Uncle Long were master's followers? A follower was not a subordinate. Lung Ruoxu couldn't figure it out. However, the shock in her heart had yet to completely subside. She couldn't help but turn her beautiful eyes to Uncle Long. Little girl, all of Master Yes subordinates have gone through the right path and will follow and serve him every day. As for us, although we are also Master Yes followers, we formed it spontaneously. In other words, our identity has not been personally acknowledged by Master Yu. After all, there were too many people who wanted to follow Master Yu in the divine world back then, and we could only be considered as one of them. Seeing Lung Ruoxu's confused expression, Uncle Long smiled and explained. Chapter 2010. Before Departure 3. However, it is also because no one knows of our existence that we are safe and sound after Sir Yes' accident. Originally, we old men wanted to avenge Sir Yu, but Wu Jing's strength was beyond our imagination. Therefore, our revenge operation has never succeeded. Because of this, old man Ao was once wanted by that woman, Wu Jing. Fortunately, Wu Cheng didn't know who we were or how we avenged Master Yu. She only thought that we didn't accept her as the divine master and wanted to find trouble with her. After that, we saw that we couldn't take revenge, so most of us went into seclusion. After a long time, Wu Cheng didn't care about us anymore. Uncle Long continued. His emotions were brought back to tens of thousands of years ago. He had been hot-blooded before, but as the number of failed attempts at revenge increased, they slowly began to lose hope. Even so, they had never given up. It was just that they were no longer as passionate as before. Besides, they had been searching for Master Yes' 2 disciples for so many years. They needed someone to support them as they were losing their will. Now, they had finally found Bing Yao, but she was poisoned. As for Shui, she had given them a surprise, but she was not strong enough to convince the others. This was also what Uncle Long was worried about. However, he had high hopes for Shui. As for the others, he could not guarantee anything. After hearing Uncle Long's words, Lung Ruoxu finally understood. It seemed like her master's charisma back then had attracted many people to follow him in secret. However, when the demon heard Uncle Long's words, he didn't think much of it. In his eyes, you was the biggest fool, and these people who idolized you were the dumbest of the dumbass. He scoffed at them. Uncle Long, thank you for everything you've done for my master, Lung Ruoxu said gratefully. Little girl, you're welcome. We were also attracted by Master Yes' personal charm. What a pity. But Sir Yu was harmed by a villain. Uncle Long sighed. It took them a long time to find some clues about Sir Yes' death. At that time, this fact shocked them because they knew very well that Sir Yu loved his sister, Wu Yin, very much. If it wasn't for Sir Yu who gave Wu Yin an unprecedented respect, Wu Yin wouldn't have such a high status in the divine world. However, who knew that the woman who looked gentle and lovely and always hid behind Sir Yu with a timid look was actually a beast in human skin? After knowing this fact, they finally understood what it meant to be a vicious woman, and what it meant to not judge a book by its cover. I won't let Wu Chen off. He'll take revenge for my master, Lung Ruoxu said with determination. Good, good. Shui, I believe that Master Yu will be very happy to hear this. Hearing Lung Ruoxu's words, Uncle Long was extremely happy. Ao Jia could not help but say, Little girl, if you want to avenge Master Yu, the old whale, and I will definitely help you. However, not all of us who avenged Master Yu were as kind as us. As for why I'm willing to help you, it's entirely because of the old whale, because I trust his vision. However, I trust you, but others may not believe that you have the strength. So, whether you can use those old guys or not will depend on your ability. I'll inform them when I have the chance. Be prepared. Well, Shui, those old men are a good help. They've always wanted to avenge Master Yu. Unfortunately, our strength is limited and we can't do anything to Wu Yin. So, we have to hide for the time being. However, our desire for revenge has never stopped. Uncle Dragon added after hearing Ao Jie's words. In fact, he was very confident in Shui. Other than her weak strength, she was excellent in all aspects. However, he knew how monstrous Shui was. Hence, in his opinion, it was only a matter of time before Shui grew up. Uncle Long, is there nothing you can do about Wu Cheng's strength? Lung Ruoxue asked in disbelief. She was very clear about Uncle Long's strength. If Uncle Long said that he couldn't do anything to Wu Xian, then she really didn't dare to imagine how strong Wu Xian's strength would be. She was afraid that she would be on par with her master. Little girl, several tens of thousands of years ago, Uncle Long's strength wasn't as strong as it is now, and Wu Ling's strength was also beyond our expectations at that time. None of us expected that she had been hiding her strength all this time. After that, we began to cultivate in seclusion. However, after so many years, none of us have fought with Wu Ling, so we're not too sure how strong she is now. However, compared to several tens of thousands of years ago, I think she must be stronger. When Uncle Long said this, he was a little worried. That woman's strength was abnormal, but they didn't know why. This fact made him feel a little defeated. That might not be the case. The demon suddenly said, why? Uncle Long looked at the demon in confusion. That woman's bloodline isn't pure, so it's very difficult for her to improve her strength. Otherwise, she wouldn't have created that deceptive secret realm. I think that she must be in need of fresh blood to purify it now. Otherwise, it will be even more difficult for her to improve her strength in the long run. The demon said with a faint smile, but there was one thing he didn't say. If Wu Xian didn't think of a way, her strength wouldn't become stronger. Instead, it would weaken day by day. This was definitely the proof that she was taking advantage of others. One must know that it wasn't easy to take advantage of others. Thinking of this, he suddenly became worried. After absorbing Yes nutrients, she should have died from the violent energy. After all, she didn't have a chaotic body. However, you had kindly saved her with his own blood, which created the half-chaotic body. However, from then on, she also had the habit of absorbing fresh blood. In order to prevent Wu Yin from killing more people, you have been feeding Wu Yin his own blood for a long time. Otherwise, Wu Yin's strength wouldn't have advanced by leaps and bounds. However, at the same time, Wu Yin's desire for blood had become stronger, especially for the imperial blood. Power and greed eventually led her to attack you. However, according to his guess, Wu Yin must have had her eyes on the imperial blood at that time. As for why she didn't succeed, he had no idea. Fortunately, she did not succeed. Otherwise, the current divine realm would really be in her grasp. When he thought of all this, he became even more worried about Shui's safety. This was because Shui also had the chaotic body. If Wu Xian knew about this, she would definitely not let Shui off. After all, without you, the importance of Shui's chaotic body could be imagined. The purity of the blood within the chaotic body was incomparable to ordinary blood, which was what Wu Yin needed even more urgently. After all, he and Shui were the only two people in the world with the chaotic body. However, his chaotic body would definitely not want it, so protecting Shui was his top priority. However, he did not know if he should tell Shui these things now. After thinking for a long time, he finally decided to tell Shui. At the very least, Shui would be on guard. It was better to act than to act. After making up his mind, he immediately sent a message to Shui. After listening to the evildoer's story, Lung Ruoxue was stunned. She never thought that her blood would be so popular. It was wrong. It couldn't be put that way. It should be said that if Wu Yin wanted to achieve the chaotic body, the best way was to kill her and then change her blood. When she thought of this, she suddenly felt a little gratified. She had heard from the demon that Wu Yin still had a half-chaotic body. This meant that after Wu Yin killed her master, she didn't get her master's blood to change her blood. Otherwise, it would be even more difficult for her to avenge her master. Thinking of her master, Lung Ruoxue's heart ached again. Her master had died in the hands of that ungrateful Wuling wolf, Wuling. Her senior brother had also been killed by that woman. Hence, the hatred between her and Wuling would never end. However, this was also good as they would never let each other off. After all these incidents, it would only strengthen the hatred between them. At this moment, Lung Ruakshu's desire to become stronger grew even stronger. Wuling, she would not let him off. After listening to the demon's words, Uncle Long also had the idea of testing the fog's strength. After all, knowing one's enemy was the only way to win 100 battles. This time, other than finding something to cure Bing Yao's poison, he would also find that woman to spar with. At this moment, he still didn't know that the thing that Lung Ruashue was talking about that could cure Bing Yao was actually the petal of the mist. However, even if he knew, he still had to go. After that, the four of them split up. Uncle Long and Ao Jia went to prepare the items that they might need on the way, while Lung Ruashue and the demon went to bid farewell to Godfather and the rest. When Master Ning and the first elder found out that Lung Ruashue and the others were going to find the antidote for Bing Yao, they wanted to follow them. However, Lung Ruakshu's words made them give up on the idea. Chapter 2011. Uncle Long's Old Friend 1. It was because Lung Ruashue smiled at them and said, "Godfather, great elder, our family needs you more." The two immediately agreed to stay when they heard this. They watched the five leave with reluctance. The extra person was Huan Chun. Huan Chun's expression was grave when he found out about Bing Yao. However, when he heard that Lung Ruashue was going to the Imperial City to find an antidote for Bing Yao, his expression became even more serious. In the end, he agreed to Lung Ruakshu's decision. After watching the five people leave, the Ning family's master immediately became listless. The first elder was also listless and silent. Seeing the two of them like this, Lu Feng and the others were helpless. Did these two old men really have to do this? It's not like that girl is not coming back. Unable to bear seeing them sighing all day long, Lu Feng and the others spent more time in their rooms, while Cheng Wu and the others would often stay in the Yao clan building. For a time, the Lung clan's main residence became deserted. After Lung Ruashue and the rest left the Devil's Land, Huan Chun teleported them away. In less than a day, they had arrived at the Imperial City. However, when they were still some distance away from the Imperial City, Huan Chun had no choice but to return to the Huan Chun space. After all, they were almost at Wu Chen's territory. He was afraid that the woman would discover his aura, so hiding was the safest option. After Huan Chun returned to the Huan Chun space, their original five-man team had turned into a four-man team. However, before entering the Imperial City, Lung Ruashue and the other three had also taken a disguise pill to avoid being recognized. After paying the entrance fee, Lung Ruashue and the other three swaggered into the Imperial City. The current Imperial City wasn't unfamiliar to them, so Lung Ruashue and the other three didn't stay on the streets for long. They immediately found an inn to stay in. The inn that they had found was not too big, and its location was a little remote. However, it was very suitable for the four of them. After all, they were dressed as cultivators who were not doing very well. It was natural that they could not afford to stay in a good inn. Moreover, the inn was quite far from the Divine Master's estate. Even if something happened in the Divine Master's estate, they would not be suspected too soon. After booking 2 rooms, Lung Ruashue and the rest went straight back to their rooms and requested that no one should disturb them. Once they entered their rooms, Uncle Long immediately found a place to sit down, as if he had heaved a sigh of relief. Lung Ruashu couldn't help but look at the room in front of her. This room was really simple. Other than a bed, a table, and a few chairs, there wasn't even a single decoration in the room. Fortunately, the room was considered clean, and it was worth their accommodation fees. However, when she saw Uncle Long's appearance, she couldn't help but laugh in her heart. She took the initiative to ask, "Uncle Long, are you tired?" "I'm not tired. I'm a little scared. Huan Chen's speed is so fast that I feel ashamed." Uncle Long told the truth, and the gloominess on his face quickly disappeared. "Uncle Long, calm down. Dream dust is an artifact spirit, so we naturally can't compare to it. Lung Ruoshua smiled as she consoled Uncle Long. Yes, Shue is right. Little girl, the God Lord's mansion has always been heavily guarded. We have to come up with a plan. Otherwise, if we go in rashly, we might encounter danger. Uncle Long said cautiously. It was not easy to enter the Divine Master's residence. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, when he had decided to follow Master Yu, he had not even entered. It's best to get a map of the God Lord's estate first. Lung Ruoshua nodded. The moment she finished speaking, a white figure appeared in front of the four of them and said, I've already prepared the map for you. It was dream dust. Seeing Huan Chen's sudden appearance, Lung Ruoshua was worried. This fellow was too casual. He could go back and come out as he pleased. He didn't have any sense of organization or discipline. She really didn't know how he managed to be an artifact spirit. Even Green Vessel didn't have this ability. In reality, this was something that Lung Ruoshua did not know. When a weapon spirit reached their level, they could naturally exist independently of the weapon. It was not that Qingju did not have the ability to do so, but he was not at his peak. Therefore, Qingju could not leave the universal bracelet at this moment. However, even if Qingju could leave, he would not be like Huan Chen, who liked to leave his body so much. To Qingju, his dedication was more important than anything else. He could not let go of the flowers and plants that he was taking care of. Lung Ruoxu's sorrow immediately turned into joy when she saw Huan Chen's map of the God Lord's estate. She couldn't wait to open the map. After looking around, she couldn't help but ask, where's the main body of Rime Ice? She searched several times, but still couldn't find it. The main body of Rime Ice? Upon hearing this, Uncle Long and Huan Chen became alert at the same time. The two of them asked in unison, why are you asking about the location of Rime Ice's main body? I need the petals of her main body to refine an antidote pill for senior brother. Lung Ruoshua said guiltily. Before she came, she had only told Uncle Long and the others that she was going to the Divine Master's residence in Yu City to look for an antidote for her senior brother. However, she did not dare to tell them that the antidote she needed was the flower petals of Rime Ice, because she was afraid that Uncle Long and the others would object to it. Thus, she could only hide it from them. However, it was obvious that she could no longer hide it from them, so she had no choice but to tell them the truth. When Uncle Long, Huan Chen, and Ao Jie heard Lung Ruoxu's words, the three of them were stunned and could not react for a long time. Seeing them in this state, Lung Ruoxu's heart was in a mess, and she became more and more uneasy. After a long time, only then did the three of them come back to their senses. Uncle Long was the first to shout, Lung Ruoxua, you're getting more and more daring. You dare to hide such a big thing from us. Uncle Long was furious. The consequences were severe. He called Lung Ruoxua by her full name. Furthermore, the moment he recalled that Lung Ruoxua had only planned to come here with the demon to retrieve the antidote, the anger in his heart would rise uncontrollably. Ao Jie also looked at Lung Ruoxua with an expression that said, I can't help you now. His handsome face was filled with disapproval. Only Huan Chen was relatively calm. After all, he was very clear about the demonic man's identity. If that fellow wanted to take the flower petals from the mist ripple's body, the chances of success were very high, but the premise was that he had to be at his peak. Now, Huan Chen didn't have high hopes for him. However, Huan Chen didn't dare to say this out loud. Otherwise, no one would be able to stop that demonic man when he got angry. Hence, even though he was secretly resentful of Lung Ruoxu's guts, he tactfully maintained his silence. Uncle Long. Lung Ruoxua looked at Uncle Long pitifully. Hearing Uncle Long call her by her full name, Lung Ruoxua knew that he was very angry. However, she really had to come. She didn't mean to hide it from Uncle Long and the others. Besides, she didn't feel good seeing Uncle Long so angry. However, not only did her pitiful look not move Uncle Long, but it also made him so angry that he left with a flick of his sleeves. Lung Ruoxua was dumbfounded. Chapter 2012. Uncle Long's Old Friend 2. Uncle Long was really angry. Whoa, Lung Ruoxue felt so wronged. Then, she could not help but turn her beautiful eyes to Ao, Jia, and Huan Shun, who knew that one of them would ignore her and leave, while the other chose to disappear. Seeing this, Lung Ruoxue was depressed. Shui, don't worry, they will understand you. Knowing Shui Er's grievances, the evildoer pulled her into his arms and comforted her. Evildoer, don't you think we should not hide it from them? Lung Ruoxue asked gloomily. Shui, you're not wrong. If you tell them about this, they will also be in a difficult position. After all, they had to save Bing Yao. The longer they delayed, the worse it would be for Bing Yao. However, they had to get the flower petals of that ingrate, Wu Ling, if they wanted to save Bing Yao. The chance was slim, but they had to try. However, they'll be worried mainly because they don't know my identity. Why don't you tell them my identity? That way they won't be so worried. The demon suggested after some thought. You've really decided? When Lung Ruoxue heard the demon's words, she felt touched. She knew that the demon was doing this for her, and was afraid that she would be blamed by Uncle Long and the others. After all, the demon had no intention of revealing his identity. Yes, they're the people you acknowledge. Naturally, I will also treat them as my own people. The demon nodded. Then he'll find a time to talk to Uncle Long and the others. Lung Ruoxue asked the demon, You gone too far. You even hid it from me. At this moment, they heard Huan Chen's voice. Immediately after, the white-robed Huan Chen appeared before them with a cold expression. Why are you here again? The demon looked at Huan Chen and said with a look of disdain, What's wrong with me showing up? I can't. Huan Chen was a little annoyed. Did this guy find him an eyesore? Since they despise me, I have to appear in front of them more often. Otherwise, they will forget about me sooner or later, Huan Chen thought to himself. No, go back, Shui, and I don't welcome you. After hearing Huan Chen's words, the evildoer's disdain deepened. They'll leave if you tell me to. That would be so embarrassing. Evil man, let me tell you, I'm going to be the third wheel. You want to chase me away? No way. Huan Chen said in an infuriating manner. At this moment, he seemed to have forgotten how terrifying a demon was. All he wanted to do was to argue with him. However, not only did the demon not get angry, but he also revealed an alluring smile. Since you like to be a third wheel, it'll fulfill your wish. If you have the ability, don't ever go back to your space. Trying to goad me into action is useless. Huan Chen roared. Then, he glared at Lung Ruoxue and said, Master, to think that I trusted you so much. How could you hide such a big thing from me? Aren't you the artifact spirit of the dream dust space? Since I'm your master, you should know what I'm thinking. Lung Ruoxue spoke the truth. She didn't intend to hide it from Huan Chen like she did to Uncle Long. After all, it was hard to keep their relationship a secret. However, she didn't expect Huan Chen to be unaware of this. Lung Ruoxue's words rendered Huan Chen speechless. The demon looked at him with a half-smile. After a long while, Huan Chen said angrily, I respected your privacy, so I didn't probe into your thoughts. Otherwise, how could I not know? Oh, I see. Then I have to thank you properly. Lung Ruoxue said with a smile. With Huan Chen's interference, she felt much less depressed. There's no need to thank me, but you're not allowed to hide such things from me in the future. Huan Chen stated his conditions. Then, he silently gave the demon a look. The two of them immediately had a tacit understanding. In fact, he had shouted at the demon on purpose, who made his master unhappy. As his master's artifact spirit, he naturally had the duty to help his master solve his problems. When Lung Ruoxue heard Huan Chen's words, she immediately nodded her head like an obedient child and promised, I'll tell you everything I know in the future, okay? Her attitude was good. It's fine as long as you don't hide such a big thing from me. Huan Chen felt a cold wind blow against his body and couldn't help but shrink back. He didn't dare to let his master tell him everything. If that really happened, that demonic man would definitely cut him up alive. In addition, the reason why he didn't probe into his master's thoughts wasn't because he respected his master's privacy, but because that evil man had warned him not to pry into his master's thoughts, or else he would bear the consequences. At that time, when he heard these 4 words, he was so scared that he immediately put away the thought of peeking at Master's thoughts. However, if he knew that the demon had only given him such an order, he would probably be even more depressed. And Lung Ruoxue nodded. She didn't intend to hide it from Huan Chun. Huan Chun didn't know. It was a beautiful misunderstanding. Huan Chun was satisfied with Lung Ruoxue's quick response. He then asked with concern, "Master, evildoer, how confident are you in obtaining the flower petals of rime ice?" "I'm not confident." The demon glanced at Huan Chun and said straightforwardly, "It can't be." Huan Chun blinked his eyes in disbelief. "I'm not sure. You know my current strength, but we'll try our best." The demon said very seriously, "And you still dare to come?" Huan Chun was speechless. These two people were really bold. Could it be that the sheep wanted to enter the tiger's mouth of their own accord? What's there to be afraid of? Although we're not sure if we can get the flower petals of the rime ice, we still have to try. If we succeed, senior brother will be saved. Lung Ruoxue reminded. "I know, but you can't rush to get that woman's flower petal," Huan Chun said after some thought. Do you know something?" When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she asked in surprise. "That woman's true form is a plant, but she has a half-chaotic body, so the divine power in her body has never been very stable. The 1st and 15th of every new year are when her body is at its weakest. Those 2 days are the best days for us to take her petals. If we can sneak into the Divine Master's estate during those 2 days, our success rate will be very high." Huan Chun explained. "Huan Chun, you've been staying in the Divine Master's estate all this time. Do you know where her true body is?" Lung Ruoxue continued to ask after hearing Huan Chun's words. "Although I know a lot about the God Lord's estate, I don't know where she has placed her main body. You should know that the place where her main body is must be the safest. Otherwise, if her main body is destroyed, her little life will also be lost." Huan Chun said with a frown. That woman's original body and doppelgangers were numerous, so it was not easy to find her. Hearing this, Lung Ruoxue felt a little depressed. However, she also knew that Huan Chun was right. It would definitely not be easy to find the main Boda's hiding place. Although I know it'll be difficult to find Rime Ice's main body, I won't give up, she said after sighing. Chapter 2013, Uncle Long's Old Friend 3, Master, I will help you. Huan Chun hurriedly expressed his thoughts, but as expected, he was glared at by the demon again. Yes, Lung Ruoxue nodded. The most important thing right now was to coax Uncle Long. Otherwise, her movements would be restricted. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue kept the illusion dust back into the illusion dust space. Then, she planned to look for Uncle Long with the demon. Master, I don't plan on returning to the dream dust space. Just as Lung Ruoxue was about to step out of the room, she heard Huan Chun grumbling in her heart. After a faint smile, she pulled the evildoer to the next room. Their rooms were next to Uncle Long's in AOGS. After knocking on the door, AOG's voice came from the room. Who is it? In fact, AOG was a wise advisor. It's me, Lung Ruoxue said timidly. We don't want to see you now. Let's go back. AOG said coldly. Uncle AO, please listen to my explanation. Lung Ruoxue said coquettishly. However, AOG was completely unmoved. No, I won't listen. I don't want to see you now. AOG said without any room for discussion. After that, he did not say anything else. After hearing these words and seeing that AOG did not respond, Lung Ruoxue was extremely disappointed. She looked at the tightly shut door and stood outside AOG's door for a while before she unwillingly brought the demon back to her room. However, as soon as she entered the room, the door of the next room opened. AOG stuck his head out and looked at the empty corridor. He finally heaved a sigh of relief. Whew, that was close. He had almost been exposed. Actually, the old whale wasn't in the room at all. Furthermore, it was the old whale who had repeatedly warned him not to open the door for Lung Ruoxue as a punishment for her audacity. However, when he felt Lung Ruoxue's disappointment and low spirits, his heart almost softened. If the little girl had stayed outside the door for a few more minutes, he might have surrendered. Fortunately, she had returned. Thinking of this, he closed the door and hid in his room. For 3 consecutive days, Lung Ruoxue tried her best to see Uncle Long and Ao Jie. However, Ao Jie was determined not to open the door for her. She did not even hear Uncle Long's voice. At that moment, Lung Ruoxue's sorrow deepened. AI. In the room, Lung Ruoxue sat on a chair and sighed nonstop. 2 handsome men were sitting on the other chairs and were admiring her sorrow without blinking. After feeling the gazes of admiration, Lung Ruoxue turned her beautiful eyes to the 2 of them and said helplessly, "Are you bored?" He actually laughed at her. This was really too much. Master, since you're so vexed, why don't we have a one-day tour of the God Lord's estate? Huan Qin suggested with a smile. He didn't take Uncle Long's anger to heart, nor did he think that Uncle Long would really be angry with his master. However, it was still possible that Uncle Long would give his master the cold shoulder for a few days. Therefore, when his master frowned, the sorrowful look on his face became a sight he enjoyed every day. Not only him, the evil man did not stop his master, but he was also enjoying it. AI. After hearing Huan Qin's words, Lung Ruoxue sighed heavily. What's wrong? Does master think my suggestion is not good? Huan Qin asked in confusion. They had been locked in their rooms for 3 days. Other than going to the next room, they had almost never left the room. How could their master bear it? In his heart, his master should be very anxious to go to the Divine Master's estate to find out what was going on. I really want to go to the Divine Master's residence to find out, but if Uncle Long finds out, I'm afraid he'll be even more furious, so Lung Ruoxue did not finish her sentence. I should coax Uncle Long first. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to concentrate when she moved. AI. After Lung Ruoxue finished speaking, it was Huan Qin's turn to sigh. Why are you sighing? Lung Ruoxue could not help but ask. I'm sighing for you, master. It's been hard on you, Huan Qin said honestly. His clear eyes were misty, as if he was about to cry. Huan Qin's words made Lung Ruoxue's forehead fill with black lines. However, she knew that Huan Qin was teasing her because she had been in a terrible mood for the past few days. At this moment, someone knocked on the door. Lung Ruoxue quickly stood up to open the door. When she saw the person standing outside, she was momentarily dumbfounded. What's wrong? You don't want to see me? Uncle Long glared at him and said fiercely. No, Uncle Long, please come in. Lung Ruoxue was at a loss. She had been looking for Uncle Long for 3 consecutive days, but Uncle Long had refused to see her. Now, he had actually taken the initiative to come to her. Was this true? Could she be dreaming? Lung Ruoxue pinched herself without a sound. Oh, it hurt. Then it wasn't a dream, and Uncle Long was really willing to see her. Lung Ruoxue was extremely excited, but her beautiful eyes were fixed on Uncle Long with hidden bitterness, as if she was afraid that Uncle Long would disappear in the next second. Naturally, Uncle Long noticed Lung Ruoxue's small actions. He laughed in his heart, but he still maintained a serious expression on his face. Is this the little girl you were talking about? Why does she look a little silly? Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice rang in Lung Ruoxue's ears. When Lung Ruoxue heard this voice, she suddenly realized that other than Uncle Long and Ao Jie, there was another man she did not recognize at the door. The man's facial features were delicate, his skin was white, and he was very tall. He looked very young, no more than 30 years old, but his dark, diamond-like eyes were unusually sharp. He was looking at her with an assessing gaze, seemingly not very satisfied with her. As for the man's strength, he was also a reverent god. Lung Ruoxue knew that this person must have a very good relationship with Uncle Long since he was able to follow her here. Otherwise, Uncle Long wouldn't have brought him to her. However, she sighed. The people that Uncle Long knew were indeed of high class. There were Reverend God level and Reverend God level, dazzling her eyes and making her unable to follow them. But this person, did she look that stupid? What's wrong with your eyes? This girl was very smart. If she's stupid, then there's no smart one in this world. Uncle Long glanced at his old friend and said indifferently, "Ugh." Was Uncle Long complimenting her? Why did it sound so strange to her? Sob. Uncle Long is still angry. Oh, really? I can't tell. The man glanced at Lung Ruoxue and said, "Then take a good look. You'll see." Uncle Long said without even blinking. Hearing the conversation between the two of them as if there was no one else around, Lung Ruoxue was in a dilemma. She was still here. Did Uncle Long and that man treat her like she didn't exist? Following that, the man really did listen to Uncle Long's words. He carefully sized up Lung Ruoxue again and shook his head as he looked. "Why is this girl so ugly? You're really ruining the appearance of the imperial city." The man made an important conclusion. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she thought to herself, "I've taken disguise pill, all right?" However, she could also tell that this man was here to cause trouble. Otherwise, why would he pick at her on their first meeting? In fact, if it wasn't for Uncle Long, she really wanted to shout, "Who are you, old man?" He was in charge of the heavens and the earth, and he even cared about what she looked like. Wasn't this catching a rat and being a busybody? Following that, Lung Ruoxue heard Uncle Long say in an unusually serious tone, "It's safe to be ugly. It's better for women to be ugly." This time, Lung Ruoxue wanted to cry, but had no tears. However, she endured it. If Uncle Long could agree with that man's words and not be angry at her for not telling him the truth, she would accept it. "He'll just treat it as an entertainment for my family." However, Lung Ruoxue had clearly underestimated the man's strength. The man continued, "But I don't like ugly women, especially ugly ones like this." His bright little eyes were full of disdain. The moment he said that, Lung Ruoxue immediately complained in her heart, "I don't need you to like me." It was true. As long as the evildoer didn't despise her, she didn't care about what other people thought. Then, she heard Uncle Long's reply, "I didn't bring you here for a blind date. What does it matter if you like this girl or not? Besides, I forgot to tell you that this girl is already taken." Arg. No way. Someone actually wants such an ugly girl? The man turned pale with fright, his face still full of disbelief, as if he had heard something like a lake in the sky. Haven't you heard of carrots and vegetables having their own preferences? Just because you don't like it doesn't mean that other people don't like it. Uncle Long said indifferently, "That's true." The man nodded in agreement, then said, "I'm guessing that the person who likes this silly girl must be an ugly monster. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken fancy to her." "Umph, that might not be the case." Uncle Long said with a smirk. Did I guess wrong? No way. Who have such bad taste?" Seeing Uncle Long's reaction, the man said in disbelief, "Uncle Long." Lung Ruoxue called out pitifully. Seeing the two of them echoing each other, she could not bear to listen any longer. Even though she did not interrupt to make Uncle Long happy, these two people could not ignore her existence. That was why she wanted to remind the two people in front of her not to ignore her. "What's the matter?" Uncle Long raised his eyebrows slightly and said in an unpleasant tone. Uncle Long's reaction made Lung Ruoxue feel rather helpless. It was Uncle Long who had come to look for her, all right? He actually asked her what she wanted? What the hell is this? Chapter 2014. Inform 1. After taking a few deep breaths, Lung Ruoxue's face was filled with grievance. Then, she said softly like a little wife, "Uncle Long, you're the one who came to find me." "Oh." Uncle Long nodded and walked past Lung Ruoxue with his long legs. Aojia and the unfamiliar man followed closely behind. The three of them worked together in perfect harmony. Lung Ruoxue saw this and thought to herself, I being ignored again? Uncle Long. He was too evil. Uncle Long was definitely doing this on purpose. Whoa. After the trio entered the room, they sat down beside the evildoer and Huan Shun and stared at them. None of the five of them said a word. The commotion they had caused at the door had been heard by the evildoer and Huan Shun, but none of them went out. They were hoping that Shui would calm Uncle Long down, but it seemed like he was still angry. Men, especially when an old man was angry. He seemed to be even more terrifying. Looking at Uncle Long, the evildoer, and Huan Chun sighed in their hearts at the same time. However, they had forgotten that they were also old men who could not be any older. As for Lung Ruoxue, she continued to be ignored by Uncle Long. Uncle Long. After standing at the door in a daze for a while, Lung Ruoxue took small steps and walked to Uncle Long's side with a smile on her face. She stood there as if she was being punished. However, it was as if Uncle Long did not see her. He continued to drink his tea and completely ignored her. Uncle Long, what are you trying to do? Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but let out a long sigh. He had already taken the initiative to look for her, yet he still ignored her. What is this? Lung Ruoxue's furtive glance at Uncle Long became more and more resentful, to the point that even Uncle Long couldn't take it anymore. Wretched girl, you're still feeling wronged. Uncle Long's body shivered, and he sighed helplessly. Schwetter was looking at him. He even got goosebumps. Uncle Long, you're finally paying attention to me. Seeing that Uncle Long was finally speaking to her directly, Lung Ruoxue was overjoyed. Of course, the what's the matter that made her feel a little depressed earlier was also a part of her reaction. It was not counted. Oomph. Who said I'm paying attention to you? The moment Uncle Long heard Lung Ruoxue's words, he immediately pulled a long face. Ugh, was Uncle Long being tsundere? Lung Ruoxue looked at Uncle Long, who was deliberately pulling a long face and didn't know what to say. Aojia had the same feeling as her. He peeked at Uncle Dragon with disdain and thought to himself, what an old whale. Aren't you too good at acting? Are you really still angry? If he was really angry, why would he go and find help for that girl? He even put down his old face to beg that peacock. Yes, the man who came with Uncle Long was Hua Peacock that Aojia had mentioned. Of course, that person couldn't be a peacock. However, that person loved beauty and especially liked beautiful things. He was also a little arrogant, so they called him the peacock. As for the man's identity, on the surface, he was one of the only two reverent gods in the Divine Master's estate. However, in reality, that man was a spy on their side. However, they had not contacted him for a long time. This time, they were only contacting him because of that restless girl, Lung Ruoxue. In addition, that guy was a human, and not a beast. Therefore, no one would ever think that the person was related to them. This was also the main reason why the person had stayed in the Divine Master's estate as a spy. Girl, this man is Xieni. You can call him Uncle Xian. Of course, you can call him that in private. It's best to pretend you don't know him when there are many people. At the thought of this, Aojia took the initiative to introduce Lung Ruoxue. However, as soon as he finished his introduction, Uncle Long rolled his eyes at him, as if saying, "Who asked you to meddle in my business?" However, he understood the old whale very well, so he naturally didn't take Uncle Long's reaction to heart. Instead, he chuckled and did what he had to do. "Hello, Uncle Xian." After listening to Aojie's introduction, Lung Ruoxue hurriedly greeted him. Even though this person was a little, he was brought by Uncle Long after all, so she had to give him some face. However, Aojie's words made her feel a little depressed. She did not know if it was her or that senior Xian who could not be seen in public. In short, one of them must not be seen in public. Otherwise, why would they have to call him Uncle Xian in private? However, based on Lung Ruoxue's short interaction with that man, she deeply felt that she was probably the one who couldn't be seen in public. That man liked beautiful women. If he were to hang out with an ugly woman like her, he would probably be afraid of being laughed at. Of course, this was just her own imagination. I heard that you're going to the Divine Master's estate to get the flower petals from the rhyme, Phoenix's body? Xieni nodded and asked straightforwardly. When Lung Ruoxue heard this, she was shocked. She sneaked a glance at Uncle Long and saw that he was as calm as before. Her heart settled down. Since Uncle Long had told this man about this, he must be trustworthy. However, the man's straightforward words still caught her off guard. He was a little too direct. Following that, Lung Ruoxue nodded her head. Then, her beautiful eyes looked at Xian without blinking, anticipating his next words. However, after Xian asked this question, he didn't have any other reaction, which made Lung Ruoxue extremely depressed. Why did this person only finish half of his sentence? And the other half didn't show any signs, so how could she guess? More importantly, she couldn't read his mind. Sigh. Lung Ruoxue could not help but sigh. After a while, he finally spoke again. Little girl, I didn't know that you were so bold. He said with a faint smile. I'm still all right. Lung Ruoxue didn't know how to reply to this. Furthermore, after hearing Xian's words, Uncle Long's expression seemed to have darkened by another layer. As expected, Uncle Long also spoke. He was more than just bold. He's completely lawless. Uncle Long snorted coldly, his face still filled with anger. Uncle Long, Lung Ruoxue called out softly. What? Uncle Long said unhappily, but his tone seemed to have softened a little. Uncle Long, I know I was wrong. Please don't be angry anymore, okay? Seeing that there was a chance, Lung Ruoxue hurriedly tried to please him. She even patronized Uncle Long by helping him to massage his shoulders, making Uncle Long feel very comfortable. However, she still put on him very angry, and the consequences will be very serious. Expression on her face. However, Lung Ruoxue knew that Uncle Long's current state was enough to show that he was no longer angry. It was just that he still felt a little embarrassed and didn't want to forgive her too quickly. Thus, she only needed to put in some effort to coax him, and everything would be fine. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue became even more attentive. He even gave Uncle Long a massage and served him tea and snacks. His service was very thoughtful and meticulous. Even the evildoer was a little jealous, but for he endured it. Even though the evildoer had endured it, Lung Ruoxue could still feel a pair of resentful eyes following her, making her feel as if there was a dagger on her back. Her little heart trembled. Then, she poured a cup of tea for the evildoer and took some snacks. Instantly, the evildoer's face bloomed like a flower in spring, and a smile appeared on his face. Chapter 2015. In Form 2, upon seeing this, Lung Ruoxue wiped the cold sweat off her forehead and thought to herself, that was close. However, evildoers were still easy to please. At least, in her opinion, he was much easier to please than Uncle Long. Because the demon was appeased with a cup of tea and some snacks, but Uncle Long. After a long while, Uncle Long's face was finally no longer as stiff as before. Lung Ruoxue also heaved a sigh of relief. Then Uncle Long, whose attitude had softened, formally introduced Xian's identity. This guy is a reverent god of the God Lord's estate and an old friend of ours. Besides, he knows the locations of a few doppelgangers in the mist. However, we'll have to verify whether the original body is among them. Uncle Long sighed. When he first found out that was looking for the real body of the Ripple, he was angry and angry. He was angry that didn't tell him in advance, angry that was putting her life at risk. However, he soon realized that had to come because she had to save Bing Yao. After that, he went to see his old friend in person and explained the matter to him. However, when Xian heard what they were going to do, he also showed a shocked and incredulous expression because such an idea was too crazy. Besides, because of and Bing Yao's identity, Xian had to take this seriously. However, Xian had also made it clear to him that he could only help in secret and couldn't expose himself. Uncle Long was also well aware of this. Now is not the time for Xian to show his cards to the Divine Lord's estate. Xian had also requested to see so he had brought that fellow along. However, other than his nature, Xian had picked his nose and looked at on purpose. He wanted to test Er's character and see if she was worthy of his help. At the same time, he wanted to take revenge for himself, who asked him to be so angry in front of his old friend and even complained to that girl. That was why the two of them had sung the same tune at the entrance earlier. After Lung Ruoxue heard Uncle Long's words, she immediately looked at Xian in surprise. Then, she turned to Uncle Long and said, as long as we know the location, we can verify the rest ourselves. Little girl, I don't object if you want to personally test it out. However, with your strength, Do you think you can see Wu Chen's clone? Not only is the place where her clone is hiding heavily guarded, but there are also many formations set up to protect her. Although I heard from the old whale that you're quite skilled in formations, I'm afraid that she'll find you before you can dispel the formation. With her strength, you won't be able to escape. Xian Yi glanced at Lung Ruoxue and poured cold water on her head. From his point of view, the girl in front of him was a bit ignorant of the immensity of heaven and earth. How could the petals of the mist ripple's main body be so easy to take? This would probably be more difficult than killing her directly. More importantly, he was not optimistic about these people's strength. Although he knew a few places where the fog ice clone was hiding, there were people guarding each place. Moreover, the people guarding them were basically the hidden forces of the fog ripple. He didn't even know the strength of some people, so he didn't think they would succeed. But the old whale would never say these words. Although the old whale also felt that this trip was a little dangerous, he had spoiled that girl a lot. He could see this, so he could only be the bad guy. At the very least, he had to take into account the dangers they would encounter. Otherwise, if these people were caught by fog, the consequences would be unimaginable. I know this is very dangerous, but no matter how difficult it is, I have to give it a try. I must save my senior brother. After Lung Ruoxue heard Xian Yi's words, she said with an unusually firm will, "With me here, it's enough to ensure Shui Heir's safety." At this moment, the evildoers spoke up. Although the man named Xian Yi was doing this for their own good, his pride as the mistress of the dark world would not allow himself to be looked down upon by others. As soon as the demon said this, Xian Yi immediately turned his attention to him and sized him up with his shrewd eyes. After sizing him up, Xian Yi was extremely surprised to find that he couldn't see through this man. This was really too strange. "You are?" Xian Yi asked cautiously. "I'm Shui Heir's fiancé." The demon laughed. "Oh, what's your strength?" Xian Yi asked directly. Who asked him to not see through it? "He's currently a divine emperor." The demon replied honestly. "Divine emperor? Then where did you get your confidence from? Even I, a reverent god, wouldn't dare to be so arrogant." Xian Yi was speechless. Was it because he hadn't come out for a long time, so these little guys had become somewhat unfamiliar to him? A newborn calf is really not afraid of a tiger. Xian Yi couldn't help sighing. Although my strength in the divine realm is at the divine emperor level, I cannot be considered as a person of this realm. The demon laughed. Since he had decided to reveal his identity to them, it didn't matter if one more or one less person knew about it. Now was just the right time. Lung Ruoxue understood the demon's meaning and helped him finish his sentence. "My fiancé's real identity is the master of the netherworld prison." Uncle Long and the other two were stunned by his words. The three of them were stunned and only reacted after a long time. However, the three of them still couldn't believe it. They stared at the demon doubtfully, trying to find some clues from his face. To their disappointment, they couldn't see anything about the man in front of them. He didn't look like the master of the Nether prison at all. As old-timers in the divine realm, it was impossible for them not to know about the mistress of the dark world who was as famous as the divine lord. Although no one had seen the mistress of the dark world before, they were no stranger to her great name and some of her shocking deeds. However, after observing for a long time, they still couldn't see any similarities between this monster and the famous mistress of the dark world. The legendary mistress of the dark world was cruel, cold, bloodthirsty, and emotionless. She was not an easy person to get along with. However, the man in front of them did not seem to have any of those qualities. Hence, they could not believe Lung Ruoxue's words, especially Uncle Long. He had spent a long time with the evildoer and knew his personality well. He knew that this guy was a fan of Shui and would put Shui Heir's will first in everything. How could such a man be the legendary, decisive, bloodthirsty, and emotionless man? If the demon was really the mistress of the dark world, then Uncle Long would definitely sigh that rumors couldn't be trusted. In reality, the things that they knew about the mistress of the dark world were indeed the evildoer's personality. However, in front of Lung Ruoxue, the evildoer would naturally not appear with that appearance. That was why they felt that the evildoer was not what the rumors said. The evildoer was already prepared for this. After taking the antidote for the disguise pill, the evildoer had returned to his original appearance. He was immediately enveloped by a layer of faint black light. Immediately after, the shadow of a pair of huge, black wings shimmering with dark light appeared on his back. The wings were slightly spread, and they almost occupied the entire room. At this moment, the pressure that the evildoer was releasing made people have the urge to worship him. Chapter 2016. In Form 3, when Uncle Long and the other two saw this, they almost couldn't control their urge to kneel down. However, with a light gesture from the demon, the three of them immediately stood up straight. Naturally, the demon wouldn't make them kneel before him. After all, Uncle Long was an elder recognized by Shui-Er, and the other two would definitely be Shui-Er's helpers. So, for Shui-Er's sake, he would naturally be more tolerant of these people. After that, the evildoer retracted his aura, and the tense atmosphere in the room returned to normal. But Uncle Long and the other two couldn't calm down for a while. This scene shocked Uncle Long and the other two men. Now, they couldn't doubt the demon's words anymore, because they had never felt such pressure from anyone else except Lord Yu. Not even Wu Xian could make them feel that way. It was an impulse that made people want to worship him. It was not something they could control. At this thought, the three of them realized that their clothes were already wet. The oppressive atmosphere they felt just now only lasted for a few seconds, but they could still feel the natural gap between them and the other party. "You're really the mistress of the dark world?" After a long while, Uncle Long regained his senses and asked in disbelief. His originally shrewd eyes were now at a loss and at a loss. Now, he didn't know how to get along with this devilish man. He was under a lot of pressure. Didn't you all see it? You guys should be familiar with my signature wings, right? The demon smiled gently. He knew that the scene just now had a huge impact on the three people in front of him. However, this was not something he could control. It all depended on the ability of the three of them to withstand it. Yes, of course, they were not unfamiliar with it, because Master Yu also had such a pair of wings. Moreover, those wings were the symbol of the Master God and the Master of the Dark World. They were not created by a divine skill, nor could they be compared to the divine skill wings. After thinking about it, the three of them calmed down. Then, they bowed respectfully to the demon and said, "Greetings, mistress of the dark world. No need to be so polite. You are people that Shui-Er acknowledges. So naturally, you are also my own people. That's why I hope we can still get along like before." The demon laughed. Yes, the three of them were still very respectful. In reality, they also wanted to be more relaxed. After all, even though the mistress of the dark world was as famous as the Lord God, she couldn't control anything in the divine world. To put it bluntly, she couldn't control them. However, the reputation of the mistress of the dark world was there for all to see. Therefore, they did not dare to relax for even a moment. When the evildoer saw them, he could only feel helpless. However, the demon knew that they were like this because they had just found out about his identity and were a little unaccustomed to it. He should be back to normal after a while. After that, he deliberately lowered his presence to avoid giving them too much pressure. AI, Shui-Er was the best. She wasn't afraid of him at all. He was a little depressed as he thought to himself, "Godfather, now you know why I must come." At this moment, Lung Ruoxu opened her mouth. Actually, when she saw the demon's illusionary wings, she was also a little surprised. It was because those wings were too beautiful, gorgeous, noble, and filled with a sense of mystery. Besides, she also wanted to touch them to see how they felt. Unfortunately, the demon retracted his wings too quickly. However, it was also fortunate that she had kept them away. Otherwise, not many people would be able to withstand that kind of pressure. Who knew that the moment Lung Ruoxu said that, Uncle Long's eyes immediately widened. "You brat, why didn't you tell me his identity earlier? If I had known earlier, would I have been so worried?" However, he was a little worried now. It was not because he was afraid, but because of the identity of that demonic man. He was under a lot of pressure. I didn't tell you guys because I was afraid you guys would feel pressured. Lung Ruashua deliberately pouted her pink lips and said, her face full of grievances. But you're still telling us now, aren't you? Uncle Long was a little angry. He was under pressure. Sob, why did this brat tell him? If I don't tell you, you'll be worried. If I tell you, you'll be under a lot of pressure. I'm really in a dilemma. However, in order to make you feel more at ease, it's better to tell you the identity of this evildoer. So I don't regret it. Lung Ruashua explained in a serious tone. Of course you don't regret it. They were the ones who regretted it. The three of them thought to themselves, but since things had already come to this, they couldn't pretend that they didn't know anything. AI. She really didn't know how to get along with that devilish man in the future. When Lung Ruashua saw the three of them struggling, she knew that they were not used to it yet. Hence, she consciously changed the topic to the location where the fog ice clone was hiding. Uncle Shin, tell me where the fog ice clone is hiding. Lung Ruashua seemed to be in a hurry, but in reality, she was in a hurry. They had been in Imperial City for 3 days, and they had not made any progress. All right then. Shinny nodded and stopped pouring cold water on Lung Ruashua, who asked her to have such a good fiancé. AI. He had someone backing him. Then, he revealed everything he knew. As far as I know, although Wu Yin has many doppelgangers, most of them are just smoke screens and not her real doppelgangers. Her real doppelgangers and her real body number no more than 4, and those few are naturally the strongest. However, Wu Yin is very cautious, so any hiding place is very secretive and guarded by many people. The few locations I know of were discovered by accident, and they are very suspicious. As for the strength of the clone inside, I'm not too sure. It could be said that this place could be a powerful clone, or it could also be her main body, or it could also be a smokescreen she used to confuse others. As for the specifics, you'll have to investigate it yourself. Xian, he said. After he finished speaking, he took out the map of the Divine Lord's estate. The location of the Fog Eyes clone was marked in red. There are 2 places that are underground. Huan Qin glanced at the map that Xian Yi had taken out and said in surprise. According to what he knew, that woman hated the underground the most. Although she was a flower, it seemed that she had some kind of psychological barrier to the dark and damp underground. Therefore, he had never thought that the woman would hide in the place she hated the most for her safety. This had greatly exceeded his expectations. Yes, the guards are also the tightest. Xian Yi nodded. How did you discover these 2 locations? Huan Qin's star-like black eyes sparkled and were filled with curiosity. It was unintentional. When I'm free, I'll wander around the Divine Master's estate, so I know that these 2 places are different from the rest. I've also seen men in black send people there, but when they came out, they were already dead. Xian Yi recalled. Are you sure that's not Wu Cheng's cell? Huan Chun asked with a faint smile. No, I've never seen the people guarding there before. They're not part of the Divine Master's estate, so I guess they should be the hidden forces of Rime Ice. Otherwise, why would they need to be so sneaky and secretive? I wanted to find an opportunity to get close to that place, but I've never succeeded. Xian Yi said with some regret. So, you're not sure that's the place where Rime Ice is hiding? Huan Qin asked. Although I've never entered that place, I've entered another place before. This is the place. This is a secret room in the Divine Master's estate. There just happens to be a blood cherry blossom there, and the person guarding that place has the same aura as the people in the 2 places underground. Therefore, I'm sure that that place is also the hiding place of the Fog Eyes clone. As for her main body, it's possible that it's there. Xian Yi pointed to another place and said to the crowd. As for Huan Qin's doubts, he explained them very patiently. After all, he did not expect these people to agree with his guess 100%. However, after hearing Xian Yi's explanation, Huan Qin did not continue asking. As for Lung Ruashua, she decided to investigate all these suspicious places. After all, she did not want to let go of any chance of finding the Fog Phoenix's main body. Following that, the group discussed in detail about the people or things they might encounter in the Divine Master's estate. Xian even specially instructed Lung Ruashua and the others to pay special attention to a few people, especially their auras. They had to conceal their auras well. Otherwise, they would be discovered by the people from the Divine Master's estate before they could even come into contact with those suspicious locations. After the discussion, Xian Yi got up and left. 2 days later, Long Ruoxu, the evildoer, Uncle Long, and Ao Jia made their preparations and headed to the Divine Master's residence. Huan Shan returned to the dream dust space, ready to remind them of certain things that they should take note of. Before he stepped into the Divine Lord's residence, Uncle Long sent a message to Evildoer. He was still worried and said, "Little brat Yi, it'll leave Shui Er's safety to you. No matter what, you must ensure the safety of Shui Er." After 2 days of getting used to it, he was already able to accept the fact that the demon was the mistress of the dark world. Moreover, the two of them had returned to their usual way of getting along, which was something the demon was happy to see. After hearing Uncle Long's words, the demon promised seriously, "Uncle Long, don't worry. I will protect Shui Er." Chapter 2017. First Meeting 1. Uncle Long nodded in satisfaction after hearing the demon's words. From his point of view, it was already very difficult for that brat Yi to protect Shui Er. After all, Yi Chun was only a divine emperor in this world. More importantly, it was not convenient for that brat Yi to make a move in this world. Therefore, even though he knew the demon's identity, he did not expect that brat Yi would be able to get rid of Rhymice. After all, this was a matter of the divine world. If the mistress of the dark world were to interfere, it would not be allowed by the laws of heaven and earth. After finding out that Shui Er was Master Ye's disciple, he felt that Shui Er was the best person to avenge Master Yu. However, with Shui Er's current strength, it was unrealistic for her to avenge Master Yu. However, with Shui Er's demonic talent, he believed that she would be able to get rid of Wu Yin and avenge Master Yu in time. So, it was only a matter of time for them. After all, it was never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. They had waited for so long, time was not a big deal. He was also very happy to see Shui Er grow up. He would feel very gratified. With this thought in mind, Uncle Long's gaze towards Long Ruoxu became even gentler. This little girl was the most talented human he had ever seen. With the identity of Master Ye's disciple, he was very certain that the future of the divine world would belong to this little girl. Now that he could personally witness the growth of the junior he liked, it was something that was worth looking forward to for any human or beast. At this moment, Uncle Long's heart was filled with excitement. His eyes had turned from gentle to fiery. Long Ruoxu immediately sensed this change, and her hair stood on end. Ugh! Uncle Long's gaze was so scary. She was scared. Even though she did not know what Uncle Long was thinking, Long Ruoxu was certain that it was related to her. Otherwise, Uncle Long would not be staring at her with such a fiery gaze. When she thought of this, she could not help but be on her guard. Her beautiful eyes that were looking at Uncle Long were also filled with curiosity. "You brat, what's with that look?" Uncle Long laughed as he sent a message. He knew that this girl must be overthinking things. Hee, it's nothing. Long Ruoxu was a little embarrassed as she hurriedly replied. "Uncle Long, let's go in quickly," she urged. In. Uncle Long nodded. Then, the four of them walked into the Divine Master's residence as if there was no one else around. After entering the Divine Master's residence without a sound, Ao Jia was excited. Invisibility was still the best. He could go wherever he wanted to go, and he wouldn't be easily discovered. Unless the other party was more powerful than them, it would be difficult to detect their aura and any traces. With that thought in mind, Ao Jia deliberately walked to the front of the Divine Master's estate's guard and provoked him silently. He even made all sorts of strange moves. As long as he could think of it, he would do it. Long Ruoxu could not help but laugh when she saw him doing so. On the other hand, Uncle Long had a helpless expression. His face was red as if it was written, "I don't know this person." Immediately after, Uncle Long, who could not stand it any longer, grabbed Ao Jia's collar and returned to the team of four. Then, he gave Long Ruoxu and the demon a look before the four of them continued to move forward. As they were afraid of splitting up their forces, the four of them decided to act together. This way, their safety would be greatly increased. As they walked through the Divine Master's residence, Lung Rawashua looked at the magnificent buildings and beautiful scenery. This God Lord's estate is indeed extravagant. The main body of the Divine Lord's residence was a dazzling golden color. It was the kind that glowed with a golden light. From afar, the entire palace stood in front of them, dazzling their eyes. The garden of the God Lord's manor was also very large. There were all kinds of rare and precious plants growing in it, competing for beauty. However, the flowers were mostly red. All kinds of red, and pink flowers bloomed. One could smell the fragrance of flowers without even getting close. However, Lung Rawashua didn't like the fragrance at all. She felt that the fragrance was too strong, and it made her feel very uncomfortable. At this moment, Qing Ju's angry voice rang out in Lung Rawashua's heart. Oomph! Of course, it was extravagant. Did she think that others didn't know that she was a nouveau riche? And the flowers here are just like that woman, so ugly. And, hearing Qing Ju's words, Lung Rawashua nodded in agreement. Sister, this flower seems to be poisonous. Quickly take an antidote pill. Suddenly, Qing Ju said anxiously. He had just discovered that these flowers did not look like a big deal on their own, but when they were mixed together, they were extremely poisonous. When he thought about how Wu Xian had planted these poisonous fog in the garden, he was instantly furious. What was that woman trying to do? However, he immediately thought that the woman would not have poisoned everyone who had come to the Divine Lord's estate. In that case, the poison must have been specially prepared for people like them who had trespassed the Divine Lord's estate. However, there are not many people who dared to break into the Divine Lord's manor. However, this was the most likely scenario. While Green Vessel was thinking about this possibility, Lung Rawashua had already distributed the antidote pills to Uncle Long, the demon, and Ao Jia. When the three of them saw that Lung Rawashua had suddenly given them a pill, they ate it without thinking. After that, they could clearly feel that their bodies were much more refreshed. Before they had eaten the pill, they had already felt their bodies heat up. However, they had not thought much about it at the time. Later, when they saw the pill that Shui had taken out, they had all guessed that there was something wrong with the God Lord's estate. After thinking about this, Uncle Long and Ao Jia couldn't help but blame Xian Yi in their hearts. They were angry that that guy didn't give them a heads up in advance and almost caused them to fall into his trap. If it wasn't for Shui, they would have returned with nothing and might have become prisoners of the Divine Lord's estate. After all, the crime of trespassing the Divine Lord's estate was not light. However, they had really wronged Xian Yi because he didn't know that there was something wrong with the flowers and plants in the Divine Lord's estate. Moreover, he had long been immune to the flowers and plants here after living in the Divine Lord's estate for many years. More importantly, Wu Jing couldn't possibly let the flowers and plants in the Divine Lord's estate harm her people. Therefore, she had already given the antidote to the people in the Divine Lord's estate, but they didn't know about it. After this brief interlude, the four of them moved even faster and headed straight for their first destination. The first place they chose was located at the southernmost part of the Divine Master's estate. There was a courtyard there that had not been occupied for many years. However, it was not abandoned because, according to Xian Yi, Wu Chun claimed to be a thrifty person. Therefore, although no one lived in the courtyard, he still sent people to clean it every day. When Lung Rawashua heard Xian Yi's explanation, she scoffed at it. No one was living there, yet they still sent people to clean and repair it. Wasn't it more expensive? However, Wu Yi should be a rich woman, so it was understandable that she was a little extravagant. Just like what Qing Ju had said, that woman was a nouveau riche. Otherwise, she would not have made the Divine Lord's estate so magnificent. She did not think that her master's taste would be so bad. Chapter 2018. First meeting too, right? In the past, the God Lord's estate was like a fairyland. That was truly beautiful and magnificent, not as tasteless as it is now. Qing Ju could sense Lung Rawashua's inner thoughts, and he started to roar like a furious green. When he saw the current state of the god lord's estate, he was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. One had to know that the god lord's estate used to be such a sacred existence in his heart. But what was this now? If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't leave the bracelet of heaven and earth, he would have gone to find the ripple mist to settle the score. Grandpa and I was a vulture who had taken over the nest. Not only did he kill the old master, but he also turned the old master's divine master's residence into a nouveau riche-like place, causing the last bit of hope he had to disappear without a trace. Qingju was so hateful. He had decided that when he recovered his strength from his prime, he would definitely teach that woman a lesson. As they listened to Qingju's inner roar, Lung Ruoxue and the other three had already silently approached the courtyard. From the outside, the courtyard did not fit in with the magnificence of the divine master's estate. It looked too ordinary, and the walls were old. There were only a few leaves on the branches that extended out of the courtyard. It looked like late autumn, and it made one feel melancholic. However, after she entered, Lung Ruoxue was shocked to discover that the courtyard could not be judged by its appearance. It looked like an ordinary courtyard, but there was actually a whole new world inside. Compared to the depression outside, the inside of the courtyard felt like spring. Hundreds of flowers were in full bloom in the small garden. The verdant lawn and verdant trees all indicated the arrival of spring. Additionally, the temperature inside the courtyard was a bit higher than that outside. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but feel astonished when she saw this. However, she would be happier if the black-clothed men were not busy in the courtyard. The aura of these men in black was just like Black One and the rest. They were filled with violence and bloodthirst. One look, and one could tell that they were people stained with blood. Lung Ruoxue and the other three were curious when they saw that they were moving boxes into a room. They walked closer, and Ao Jie opened one of the boxes when no one was looking. His expression changed immediately. He let go of the box, and it closed with a bang. "Who is it? Come out. Don't be so sneaky." A man in black heard the movement and quickly looked around, but he didn't see anything unusual, so he could only shout. However, what answered him was a gust of wind. As for Lung Ruoxue and the other three, they held their breaths to prevent the black-robed man from detecting any traces of them. At this moment, the slightly annoyed Uncle Long glared at Ao Jie fiercely. Ao Jie returned the look with an aggrieved expression. Both of them were communicating telepathically at the same time. "You idiot! Don't you know how to be gentle?" Uncle Long roared in his heart. How could this guy not be as steady as Shui when he did things? Had he lived all these years in vain? He was so frivolous. Fortunately, he had come with them. If he had come alone, he would have been discovered by the men in black. "I was just scared. It's not like I did it on purpose." Ao Jie looked at Uncle Long and said, "What's inside? You're actually scared?" Uncle Long was surprised. "It's a dead man," Ao Jie said with lingering fear. His face turned pale when he thought of what he had just seen. "Dead? Have you never seen a dead person in your life? Or have you never killed anyone?" Upon hearing Ao Jie's words, Uncle Long said with a look of disdain, "It was just a few dead people, but they could scare that guy to such an extent." In Uncle Long's heart, this was definitely a useless performance. Furthermore, he felt that this situation should not have happened to Ao Jie. This was not normal. This was definitely not normal. If he died a normal death or was killed, I wouldn't have this reaction. You don't know, but the man I saw just now was so scary and terrifying. His whole body was shriveled up as if he was sucked dry by something. It was too scary. Ao Jie had never seen such a dead look. When he said that, his body was trembling. Rarely seen, often strange. I'd say I'll be fine once you get used to it. If I'm not wrong, the cause of that person's death should be the blood cherry blossom. Uncle Long said with certainty. Ugh. Seeing how nonchalant Uncle Long was, Ao Jie could not help but widen his eyes and said, "You're not afraid? What's there to be afraid of? It's not the first time I've seen a dead person like this. Shui has seen one too. She's even more courageous than you." Uncle Dragon looked at Ao Jie with disdain again. After hearing what Uncle Long said, Aojia was deeply worried. It seemed that he was really ignorant. AI, could it be that I've had too many peaceful days recently, so my courage has degenerated? At the same time, the man in black, who was on edge, let go of the suspicions in his heart and continued to move the boxes into the room. Lung Ruoxue and the other three followed behind the man in black and entered the room. When they reached the room, Lung Ruoxue and the rest saw that the room was filled with boxes. They already knew that the boxes contained dead people, but they were not sure why the other party was collecting these dead people. What Lung Ruoxue wanted to know more was the location of the blood cherry blossom that had caused the deaths of these people. Green vessel, can you read their minds? Lung Ruoxue sent a voice transmission to Qingju. The weakest among the men in black was a deity emperor. She wondered if Qingju could read their minds. "He'll try," Qingju said. Although it was a little difficult to read the minds of people who were stronger than him, his sister had the strength of a divine king now. These people were only one level higher than his sister. Therefore, reading their minds should not be a problem. With that, Qingju immediately aimed at one of the black-robed men. He sent his divine sense into the man's head. The black-robed man only struggled for a moment, then stopped moving. Of course, to outsiders, the black-robed man only seemed to be stunned for a moment. In reality, Qingju was reading his mind. Qingju read the man's mind in a matter of seconds, and the man's shock only lasted for the blink of an eye. Therefore, after doing all this, the man in black did not feel much different, only feeling a slight headache. However, he obviously didn't think too much about it, and just continued doing what he was supposed to do. Following that, Qingju did the same thing and used mind reading on the other men in black. However, to his disappointment, he did not find anything useful. Instantly, Qingju's small face fell. "Sister, these men in black don't know anything. They should be at the bottom of the hierarchy. I didn't find anything useful in their minds," Qingju complained. When Lung Ruoxue heard Qingju's words, black lines appeared on her forehead. These men in black were the lowest of the low. These people were all deity emperors. If they could only be considered as the lowest level, then how terrifying would the strength of the middle and high-level black-clothed men be? Not all of them were reverent god level, right? If that was the case, wouldn't reverent god level cultivators become cabbages? Chapter 2019. First Meeting 3. However, Lung Ruoxue knew that reverent god level cultivators in the god world were not as common as cabbages. This was because there were only 2 reverent god level cultivators in the god lord's estate, and the fact that these men in black did not know anything about them could only mean that they were not the core figures in Ripple's heart. At the thought of this, Lung Ruoxue could not help but sigh. The 3 guys in her hands should be Wuhan's confidants, right? However, the 3 of them were reverent god level, so Qingju could not read their minds for the time being. Otherwise, she would have been able to get more information. After being depressed for a while, Lung Ruoxue quickly regained her calm. Then, she sent a voice transmission to the demon, Uncle Long, and Aojia. Following that, the 4 of them went to the secret room in the courtyard. Following the mark on the map, they found a secret chamber. Lung Ruoxue stood in front of the secret chamber and looked at the door, deep in thought. "Shuer, what's wrong?" Seeing Shuer standing there in a daze, the demon transmitted his voice in confusion. "There's no formation outside this secret chamber." Lung Ruoxue looked at the demon and asked. She clearly remembered that Xian Yi had mentioned that Wushan's hiding place was protected by an array and had people guarding it. However, not only was there no one guarding the secret room, there wasn't even an array. This was too strange. Could it be that this is a fog barrier that Wu Xian deliberately set up? After listening to Lung Ruoxue's words, the demon's eyes flickered as he guessed. He was very clear that this woman was extremely cunning. Otherwise, she wouldn't have hidden herself for so many years and finally schemed against that idiot Yu. If it's a maze, there should be someone guarding it, right? That way, we can confuse the enemy, right? Lung Ruoxue asked. "You're right. However, That woman's thoughts are very deep, and it's normal for her to do things that are contrary to common sense. Why don't I go in and check it out first? The demon said after thinking for a while. Schwer, what's wrong? At this moment, Uncle Long could tell that something was wrong with Lung Ruoxue and asked her with concern. Uncle Long, I'm just curious why there's no one guarding this place, and there's no formation outside the secret room. Lung Ruoxue voiced her doubts to Uncle Long. Don't think too much about it. Won't we know once we go in and take a look? Uncle Long thought for a while. And Lung Ruoxue nodded. Then she reached out and pushed open the door of the secret room gently. The four of them looked at each other and walked in one step after another. At the same time, on the throne in the Divine Master's estate, a woman in red who had her eyes closed suddenly opened her beautiful eyes. Her eyes were full of light, which was very charming. With a flash of light, the woman in red disappeared from the throne. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue and the other three had entered the secret chamber. However, they were disappointed to find that there was nothing in the secret chamber. The entire secret chamber was empty. However, before Lung Ruoxue and the other three could do a thorough search, the space around them started to fluctuate. Following that, a lady in red appeared in the secret chamber. Instantly, Lung Ruoxue and the rest were on their guard. After that, for safety reasons, she moved the four of them into the bracelet. Although she didn't know the woman's identity, the woman's pressure was too strong. She didn't dare to be careless, nor did she want to risk the lives of Uncle Long and the others, so she had to hide. Uncle Dragon and the evildoer were already used to the sudden change of environment. However, Jia was not calm at all. He stared at the dense spirit chi that was almost liquid in front of him. He was obviously at a loss. When he came back to his senses, he looked surprised. However, when he saw that Uncle Long's reaction seemed to be quite accustomed to it, he was too embarrassed to ask his stomach full of questions. One had to know that he was Beastie, who prided himself on his intelligence. Therefore, he would never ask questions that he should not ask. Just like that, Jia was forced to calm down. At this time, Uncle Long looked at the screen and frowned. Wu Chen's reaction is really fast. I didn't expect that we would alert her. Yes, the woman in red who had suddenly appeared in the secret chamber was Wu Ling, and Uncle Long knew that the woman was definitely coming for them. However, he couldn't understand why Wu Ling had discovered their existence when he clearly didn't sense any restrictions in the secret chamber. Fortunately, they were invisible, and the little girl had this space. Otherwise, they would have become prisoners. She's Wu Chun. Uncle Long's words caused Lung Ruoxue to turn her attention to the red-robed lady in the light screen. This Wu Jing was indeed as beautiful as the legend said. Red eyes, red hair, smooth skin, a noble temperament with a trace of bravado. The gorgeous red clothes set off her heat like fire. At this moment, her eyes were like rubies, shining brightly, and her deep eyes seemed to be able to suck people in. This kind of miasma was really difficult for men to refuse. No wonder it was rumored that she had many admirers in the divine realm. However, the three men beside her didn't seem to be interested in Fog. Lung Ruoxue found it funny when she saw the evildoer and the other two frowning. If the three of them performance was known by the admirers of Rymais, they would probably vomit blood out of anger, right? I didn't expect her strength to have already reached such a level. Suddenly, the frowning evildoer spoke. What? Lung Ruoxue looked at the evildoer in surprise, her little face filled with question marks. This woman's strength is only a step away from becoming the true lord of the divine realm. It seems that her strength has improved very quickly over the years. The demon said expressionlessly. However, in reality, his heart was in a state of shock. In the past, Wu Chen's strength was nothing in his eyes. However, the current Wu Chen at least had the strength to fight with him. Moreover, he could not win against Wu Chen with his current strength. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but worry. Shui's strength was far inferior to Wu Xian's. Right now, Wu Xian could defeat Shui with just a finger. Moreover, his current strength was not at his peak, so it would be very difficult for him to defeat Wu Xian. More importantly, he could think of ways to protect Shui's safety, but he could not go on a killing spree in the divinity. To put it bluntly, he could not easily make a move in the divinity. Otherwise, the laws of the heaven and earth would probably meddle in his business again. Looking at Shui, who was beside him, the demon pulled her into his arms and thought to himself, "No matter what, I will definitely protect Shui's safety. The best way is to avoid the two of them meeting too early. After all, there is a huge difference in strength between the two of them. If they meet too early, it would not be conducive to Shui's growth and would even hurt Shui's self-confidence." At the same time, the demon's mind began to spin as he thought about how they could avoid the miasma. However, that woman's vigilance was too high. It didn't seem realistic to take the petals from her body without disturbing her. He was worried. While the demon was secretly feeling dejected, Lung Ruoxue was looking at the fog in the light screen and was eager to try. This woman was the strongest of her kind that she had ever met. Therefore, Lung Ruoxue was very eager to fight with her. When she saw fog ice, she felt as if she had seen her nemesis. She was extremely excited. However, when she saw the serious looks on the demon, Uncle Dragon, and Ao Jie's faces, she did not dare to voice out her thoughts. Otherwise, the three of them would go crazy. However, her thoughts could not be hidden from Qing Ju and the little beasts who had recognized her as their master. "Sister, you're not a match for that damn woman, Wu Yin, right now. So, don't even think about fighting her. I won't allow it." Qing Ju stood in front of Lung Ruoxue and transmitted his voice to her. Otherwise, that evildoer would definitely fly into a rage if he were to say these words. "And little master, if you see fog ice now, you have to hide. Otherwise, they'll tell your thoughts to that evildoer. I'm afraid you don't know, but he's extremely overbearing in some aspects." Huan Chun, who had been silent all this time, also threatened. Then, Baby, Charm, and the other small beasts also sent a voice transmission to Lung Ruoxue in unison to express their concern and worry. They knew their master too well. Their master was definitely someone who would go to the Tiger's Mountain, even though she knew that there were tigers there. Qing Ju, Huan Chun, and the little beastie spoke one after another, causing Lung Ruoxue's head to buzz. At this moment, there were too many voices in her head, and it was a mess. In the end, Lung Ruoxue had no choice but to promise them some unfair conditions and promise that she would never appear in front of Wu Xiao on her own accord. Only then did they feel at ease. "AI, this woman is really difficult to deal with." Uncle Long, who was also staring at the light screen, chimed in after the demon. Just now, when a woman appeared in the secret room, he could clearly feel that the fog was definitely stronger than him. He was deeply depressed about this. He was no match for the fog in the past, and after cultivating for so long, he still couldn't defeat the fog. This fact made him feel a little depressed. Ao Jie kept sighing, and his face turned black. Lung Ruoxue couldn't bear to see them like this, and couldn't bear it any longer. "Uncle Long, Uncle Ao, can you guys cheer up? Isn't it just a rhyme ice? Although we might not be as strong as her, she definitely won't be able to find us." You mean we've been hiding here all this time?" Ao Jie's eyes widened, and he asked speechlessly after hearing Lung Ruoxue's words. "I can't." Lung Ruoxue blinked her beautiful eyes and said innocently. She didn't think that hiding was a big deal if she couldn't win. She wouldn't be ashamed of it, so she was rather calm. "Shui is right. Let's hide first." Uncle Long sighed and agreed. Chapter 2020. Hatred Born Out of Love 1. With Uncle Long's words, the four of them temporarily stayed in the bracelets with peace of mind. At this moment, Wu Xian, who was in the secret room outside, frowned and was puzzled. It was really strange. She had clearly felt the aura of a stranger, but after teleporting here, she had found nothing. What was going on? Wu Jing didn't understand. In fact, when she came here, she also felt the aura of a stranger for a moment. However, the aura was very short and disappeared very quickly, which made her more suspicious. After a careful search, she did not find any clues. She finally confirmed that the stranger's aura she had felt before had disappeared. Thinking of this, Ripple Mist was furious. Oomph. No matter who the other party was, since they dared to come here to die, then they couldn't blame her for being ruthless. With this thought in mind, the fog disappeared from the secret room in a flash of light. However, although Lung Ruoxue and the rest saw that Wu Xian had left, they did not go out immediately. They were afraid that this was a plot by that cunning woman, Wu Xian. Naturally, they were not in a hurry to go out. There was food and drink in the bracelet, so the four of them ate while observing the movements outside. A day later, Wu Jing didn't come back. Uncle Long, should we go out now? Inside the bracelet, Lung Ruoxue saw that the fog ripple had not appeared for a long time. She asked Uncle Long. Having an old man in the family was like having a treasure. So, such a big matter naturally had to seek the approval of the elders in the family. As for the evildoer, although his actual age was older than Uncle Long, he was automatically ignored by her. No hurry. Let's wait a little longer. That woman is very cunning. Maybe she is peeking at us from somewhere. Moreover, she's already suspicious, so she naturally won't give up so easily. Uncle Long picked up a piece of snow-white fish and put it in his mouth as he spoke. Lung Ruoxue nodded. Although that woman had not appeared for a day, she also felt that it was not suitable for them to go out now. One must know that they had already attracted that woman's attention. If they went out now, they might fall into her trap. In fact, just as Uncle Long had said, Wu Xian wouldn't give up on the abnormal situation she had discovered easily. Even though she was not in the secret chamber, she was in the main hall, and her divine senses were focused on them. As soon as Lung Ruoxue and the others left the bracelet, she would definitely find some clues. She had been thinking about why she could not see them and how they had entered the Divine Master's residence. All of a sudden, an idea flashed through Wu Chen's mind as he thought of the word invisibility. Although this term was not unfamiliar to the people of the Divine Realm, there were not many people who could truly become invisible. It could even be said that they were very rare. As far as she knew, invisibility was not an innate talent of a person or a beast. That ability was usually reflected in equipment. In other words, if one wanted to have the ability to be invisible, they had to refine equipment with invisibility attributes. To create an invisible attribute, they would need something called an invisible stone. However, an invisible stone was a legendary item. Where such an item could be found had always been a mystery. More importantly, even with the invisible stone, it was impossible to find it. Equipment might not necessarily give invisibility, and it all depended on luck. Since ancient times, there had only been a limited number of equipment with the invisibility attribute in the celestial realm. There were definitely no more than 3 of them. 2 of them were in her hands, and the other one had long disappeared. Thinking of this, the expression on Rhyme's beautiful face couldn't help but become a little solemn. If the other party really had equipment that could make her invisible, then it would be a little troublesome. However, it was not that there was no way to break it, but the price to pay for it was quite high. Just thinking about it made her feel pain. Some time ago, the treasure house she had hidden in the secret realm was stolen, and her losses were not small. Although it was not all of her property, it was almost half of her total property. So, after knowing this, she was furious. Unfortunately, until now, she had not hidden clearly who had stolen her treasure. Although she had suspected Lung Ruoxue and the others, she did not think that they had the ability to steal her things without alerting Black One. But now that she thought about it, if the other party had equipment that could make them invisible, they should have the chance to steal her things, right? However, she immediately denied her own guess. After all, in her eyes, Lung Ruoxue was just a little brat with slightly better luck and slightly better aptitude. She had not been in the god world for long, so it was impossible for that little brat to have such a heaven-defying item. It was also because of her preconceived thoughts that she had never thought that the aura of those strangers could be Lung Ruoxue and the others. She had always thought highly of herself. In her mind, not everyone had the courage to come to the Divine Master's estate and cause trouble. That damn girl who was only a god-tier master naturally did not have the courage to do so. Moreover, she had always had many enemies. So, for a moment, she really did not know who the person who had come was. The person who came this time would not be Bing Yao. That guy had been injured by her when he came to the Divine Master's estate to investigate a while ago. She didn't know where he was hiding. Hence, Bing Yao was also excluded. Who could it be? Wu Jing thought for a long time, but she couldn't figure out whose aura it was. However, she wasn't a person who liked to go to a dead end. She naturally had to put aside things that she couldn't understand for the time being. Then, she summoned two subordinates and gave them some instructions. The two subordinates left, and after a while, they came back and handed a storage ring to Wu Jing. Ripple received the ring and teleported away. Then, with a flash of white light, the mist Ripple appeared in her own pill refining room. In fact, this pill refining room couldn't be considered her own, because this was Yu Yuan's temporary pill refining place. However, after Yu Luan fell, this place officially became her private place. Everything here was exactly the same as when Yu was alive. With a trace of sorrow on her beautiful face, Wu Chun looked around the alchemy room, and a monstrous anger suddenly welled up in her heart. At this moment, she had the urge to smash everything here again, but she didn't do it immediately. After all, this was where all her memories from her childhood were. This was also the only place where she shared memories with you, and the only place she could keep intact. After living with you for so many years, it was impossible for her to not have any feelings for him. On the contrary, she had deep feelings for you. In her eyes, there was only the handsome man who everyone looked up to. She was once like everyone in the divine realm, full of worship and respect for you. However, she didn't know when it started, but she was no longer satisfied with this worship complex of an idol. She wanted more. Chapter 2021. Hatred born out of love, 2. She didn't want to look up at the man in her heart with adoration anymore. She wanted to stand side by side with the man she loved. She wanted to let him know that she was no longer the little girl who needed someone to love and take care of her. She had grown up. She was already a mature woman. Unfortunately, to her disappointment, you only treated her as a child. Even if her mind and body had long matured, even if all the men in the divine realm were crazy for her, she was unable to attract Yes' heart. Yes' gaze had never stayed on her for too long. Sometimes, Yes' attitude toward her was no different from his subordinates. Sometimes, he would even smile at his subordinates. However, he did not smile at her, especially after knowing her feelings for him. You even deliberately distanced himself from her. This fact once drove her crazy. When she thought about it, her heart still ached faintly. Why? Why don't you like me? The mist instantly smashed everything in the pill refining room, as if she had gone mad, and she howled in pain. Yes, she hated him. She hated him to the core. However, her love had turned into hatred. She hated him, but at the same time, she couldn't forget him. So, every time she saw everything here, she was in extreme pain. However, this was the place she had always liked to come to after Yuan died. Every time she came here, she would madly smash things and then restore them. After all, she wouldn't really destroy this place, because this was the only place where she and you had memories. As for the other places, they had already been destroyed or disappeared, but this place was the most intact. So, even though she smashed it, in the end, everything was exactly the same as before. After venting, Wu Yan's mood quickly calmed down. Following that, she came to the pill furnace. There was a small cluster of light purple flames burning below the pill furnace. The temperature of the furnace was a little high for ordinary people, but it was just right for refining pills. After that, she took out a few medicinal herbs from the storage ring that her subordinate had given her and put them into the pill furnace. Very quickly, the medicinal herbs melted into a liquid. After a few simple incantations, the dissolved medicinal liquid slowly condensed into white powder. Wu Yan picked up a little of the white powder with a thin metal stick, put it to her nose, and sniffed it. Then, she nodded in satisfaction. Success. Although she knew little about alchemy, refining these things was not a problem. This was also the simplest alchemy, and she did not even need to form a pill. This white powder was the powder that could locate the invisible person. Although the powder looked ordinary, the medicinal herbs used were all of the highest quality. However, in order to find the invisible person who had intruded the Divine Lord's residence, she had to endure the pain. She put the powder into a white porcelain bottle and quickly left this place that she loved and hated. Then, she returned to the main hall and prepared to wait for the rabbit. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue and the rest still didn't know that they had been treated as rabbits. However, even if they knew, they wouldn't be able to do anything about it. They could only be more careful. However, Lung Ruoxue definitely didn't think that she had the potential to become a rabbit. She had always been a hunter. After staying in the bracelet for a few more days, Lung Ruoxue and the others still did not dare to leave the bracelet. After all, there was a cunning, alert, and unfathomably powerful Wu Qin here, so they had to be careful. However, after staying in the bracelet for a few days, Lung Ruoxue became more and more depressed. She felt an indescribable sense of powerlessness. When she came, she thought that if she and the others were careful, they might not alarm the rhyme whirlpool. But she did not expect that as soon as they moved, they were discovered by the rhyme ripple. If this continued, how could they successfully complete the mission? Lung Ruoxue paced back and forth on the empty ground in frustration, causing Uncle Long and the others to feel dizzy. Shuya, don't go in circles, I'm getting dizzy. Uncle Long couldn't help but say. Uncle Long, I'm so annoyed. Lung Ruoxue said with an aggrieved expression. I am also annoyed. However, Wu Yin is not easy to deal with, and she is more powerful than us. This is her lair, so we can't think of any good way except to endure. Uncle Long sighed. The gloominess on his face was no less than Lung Ruoxue's. AI. Sighing sounds were heard one after another, and the atmosphere in the bracelet had also dropped to the lowest. Big sister, let me take you out of this secret chamber. At this moment, Qing Ju said after thinking for a while. You have a way? Lung Ruoxue asked in surprise when she heard what Qing Ju said. I can turn into a speck of dust, attach myself to the air here, and leave this secret chamber. Qing Ju said honestly. You brat, why didn't you say so earlier? You've trapped us here. Uncle Long immediately gritted his teeth. You guys didn't ask me. Besides, I thought my sister would have thought of it. Qing Ju said with an aggrieved expression. He did not say it on purpose because he did not want his sister and the others to rely on him too much. It was fine to hide here with him, but he did not intend to help his sister and the others with anything unless his sister herself thought of using him. Even if he helped them, he wouldn't help them too much. They would have to rely on themselves. After all, this was a rare opportunity for his sister to train. Therefore, he only had to ensure the safety of his sister and the others. Everything else was not within his scope of concern. But now, it seemed that he had to make a sound. Because his sister didn't think of his ability at all, which made him a little depressed. More importantly, he couldn't bear to see his sister like an ant on a hot pan, so his heart softened. Hearing Qing Ju's words, Lung Ruoxue blinked her eyes and could not help but ask, Qing Ju, you can still turn into dust. Her thoughts could not keep up with the rest of Qing Ju's sentence. She was obviously more interested in the dust that Qing Ju mentioned. Sister, I can turn into many other things, but dust is the smallest of them all, and it's also the most difficult to be discovered. Qing Ju said with a smile. Although he was not in his prime, the universal bracelet was an innate divine weapon born from chaos. Therefore, no matter how strong he was, he could block the enemy's detection. Therefore, no matter how strong Wuhan was, he would not be able to detect his existence. Otherwise, Wuhan would not have sensed the aura of strangers, but could not find their whereabouts. Now, it seemed that bringing them out of this secret chamber was the best way. Otherwise, they would have to stay here indefinitely. If that continued, his sister would go crazy. Yes. Hearing Qing Ju's words, Lung Ruoxue nodded her head repeatedly. Then, she excitedly carried Qing Ju up. However, she did not dare to kiss him. Otherwise, the evildoer who was staring at her covetously from the side would definitely fly into a rage. Hence, whether it was for her or for Qingju, she could not do that. Chapter 2022. Hatred Born Out of Love. 3. Sister, let's leave this place first. It'll take you to the next place. Glancing at the devilish man, not far away, Qingju said with a little disappointment, "Woo. Ever since my sister has a man, she doesn't dare to kiss me anymore. Although in the past, when my sister kissed me, I would always joke that she's a pervert, but now I don't even have the chance to make my sister perverted anymore. So, I'm a little disappointed." All right. Lung Ruoxue heaved a sigh of relief when she finally got to leave this place. Just like that, Qingju turned into a tiny speck of dust and drifted with the wind. He controlled his direction and followed the air, heading towards his next destination. Wu Jing's attention was still on the secret chamber. Hence, she was not aware that Lung Ruoxue and the rest had already left. Not far from their next destination, through the bracelet screen of light, Lung Ruoxue could see the black-robed men guarding outside, as well as the formation that was emitting a faint pressure. This was normal. Lung Ruoxue couldn't help but think to herself, this place is so heavily guarded. If we break the array and go in, I'm afraid we will alarm them. At that time, Wu Cheng will definitely come." Uncle Long analyzed the situation in front of him. Before he came here, he did not expect to alert the fog so early. Therefore, they were caught off guard for a while. Now, they did not dare to act rashly. Otherwise, when the fog arrived with the black-robed man here, it would be difficult for them to win. However, with Shui Air's space, he did not have to worry about safety. Although the odds of winning against the fog were not great, it would not be easy for the fog to capture them alive. At least, they had the help of that little fellow, Qingju. It would not be a problem for them to escape. At the thought of this, Uncle Long was full of confidence. Without any worries about escaping, he wanted to go to the places marked by Xian Yi and destroy them. They should be changing shifts, right? We'll go in when they're changing shifts. Lung Ruoxue tried to suggest. That's a good idea, but I don't know when they'll change shifts. Uncle Long was a little worried. Before he came here, he didn't think that he would be discovered by the fog so early. Therefore, he didn't know the situation of the god Lord's estate very well. However, now he regretted it. Why didn't he ask more about it? It seemed that his vigilance and defense were much worse than before. It was all his fault for living in peace for too long. No, he couldn't go on like this. At this moment, Uncle Long realized his own problem. So he made up his mind to arrange a training plan for himself after leaving this place. Otherwise, he would waste it if he continued. However, Lung Ruoxue wasn't as pessimistic as Uncle Long. The reason why she didn't ask Xian Yi too much about the Divine Lord estate was because Huan Shan was around. She could just ask Huan Shan when the time came. In the past, the God Lord's estate had a shift every 48 hours. He'll probably have to ask Huan Shan now. Qingju said after thinking. Although Huan Shan spent most of his time in a deep sleep, he had never left the Divine Lord's estate. Therefore, he should know about this. Just as Qingju had expected, Huan Chen's voice rang in Lung Ruoxue's heart as soon as he finished speaking. "Young master, the old rules of the Divine Master's estate have not changed much. As such, there will still be a shift every 48 hours. After Huan Chen finished speaking, there was no more sound. After confirming it, Lung Ruoxue informed Uncle Long and the rest. Then, they waited outside the secret room. While waiting for the guards outside the secret room to change shifts, Lung Ruoxue started to study the formation outside the secret room. The formation in front of him was a defensive type attack formation. In other words, when there were no enemies, it was only responsible for defense. Once an enemy invaded or tried to break the formation would turn from defense to attack. At that time, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Therefore, this formation was quite troublesome. Lung Ruoxue looked at the array and frowned. Even though she didn't know who set up this array, the person who set up this array must have a high level of attainment in it. This defensive type attack array was definitely of the highest grade. Just as Lung Ruoxue was racking her brain over the formation, the guards outside finally changed shifts. When Lung Ruoxue noticed this, she immediately focused her attention. At this moment, a leader of the men in black stood in front of the formation. As he cast a few spells, the formation stopped operating. Lung Ruoxue's face lit up when she saw this. Could it be that they had to check the things in the secret room when they changed shifts? If that was the case, it would be good news for Lung Ruoxue and the rest. It had to be said that Lung Ruoxue and the others were quite lucky. Every time these people changed shifts, they would carefully check the secret room for any abnormalities in order to distinguish their responsibilities. Otherwise, if something really happened, none of them would be able to escape. These men in black were naturally unwilling to die with others, so they were particularly serious when they checked. After the formation outside the secret chamber stopped, a few men in black entered the secret chamber. Green Vessel controlled himself to turn into dust and slipped in as well. After entering the secret room, the screen in front of Lung Ruoxue displayed the entire secret room. This secret room was not big, and there were not many decorations inside. However, in the middle of the secret room, there was a pool made of white jade. The bright red blood in the pool seemed to be boiling, and there was a blood cherry blossom in the pool. Lung Ruoxue's eyes lit up when she saw the flower. However, at this moment, she was unable to tell if this flower was the main body or a clone. "We'll go out and take a look." Lung Ruoxue thought for a while and said to the crowd, "Sister, there's no need to go out. This is just a clone, and a fake one at that." Qingju called out to Lung Ruoxue, "Are you sure?" Lung Ruoxue lifted her beautiful eyes and asked Qingju, "This blood cherry flower only has a faint trace of pressure. Fog's clone isn't that weak." Qingju said with certainty. Oh, Lung Ruoxue was a little disappointed. However, she did not want to make a wasted trip. Even if it was just a fake clone, she had to give him a gift. At this thought, Lung Ruoxue had an idea. A colorless and odorless powder floated out of the bracelet of heaven and earth and fell into the white jade blood pool. Other than Qingju, Uncle Long, and the others did not notice her little trick. After that, while the men in black handed over their duties, Qingju drifted away from the secret room with the wind. After that, they went to a few more places. Furthermore, they had sneaked in while the men in black were handing over their duties. However, the blood cherry blossoms in those places were fake as well. Hence, Lung Ruoxue left behind a small gift in the same manner as before they left. Half a month's time passed by very quickly. Lung Ruoxue and the rest had not found anything. The few places that they had confirmed were all fake. This fact made everyone feel a little depressed. At this moment, Lung Ruoxue and the rest were guarding the entrance of an underground secret room, waiting for the men in black to change shifts. This was one of the 2 underground locations that Xian Yi had mentioned. At the same time, it was also the only 2 places that Lung Ruoxue and the rest had not explored. AI. Lung Ruoxue, who was in the bangle, sighed again. She had lost count of how many times she had sighed. There were still 2 places that she had not checked. If there was nothing here as well, she would definitely fly into a rage. "Sister, calm down. If it wasn't for the fact that our current strength is limited, we could have searched the entire God Lord's estate. However, it's already good that we've searched to this extent." Qingju consoled. "This is all your credit," Lung Ruoxue said softly in a depressed tone. "If it was not for Green Vessel, they would not even be able to search these few places." "Hee. What's mine is Big Sister S." Qingju laughed. Then, he raised his small head and focused his gaze on Lung Ruoxue. He knew that his sister had suffered quite a blow these few days. She felt as if she had no use at all. She also felt that her actions were a little frustrating. However, he did not think that this was her fault. The main problem was that woman, Fog, was not easy to deal with. Therefore, in order not to alert that woman, they had to be extremely careful. Otherwise, if they made a slight move, that woman would immediately teleport and appear in front of them. At that time, they would be even more passive. "Yes, mine is also Shuer S." At this time, the demon also said. When Lung Ruoxue heard their conversation, her heart felt warm, and a smile finally appeared on her face. At this moment, the black-robed men outside started to change shifts. Qingju sneaked into the underground secret room while they were changing shifts. As soon as he entered, Qingju felt a powerful pressure hit him in the face. His eyes immediately flickered, and he turned to the blood cherry blossom in the blood pool in the secret room. He said, "Big sister, this blood cherry blossom is one of Wu Yan's clones. It's a real clone." "Really?" The moment Lung Ruoxue heard this, her beautiful eyes shifted towards the blooming blood cherry blossom in the middle of the blood pool in the secret chamber. This blood cherry blossom was deep red in color. Its petals were layered, making it exceptionally beautiful. The diameter of the flower was close to 1 meter. At the pistil in the middle of the flower, blood could be seen flowing faintly. When she saw this flower, she knew that this was definitely not a fake flower. It was easy to tell the difference between a real and a fake clone. However, no matter how powerful this flower was, it was not the main body and was not what she wanted. Moreover, although she had the idea of destroying the vampiric flower, she did not dare to act rashly now. Otherwise, it would alarm the fog, and it would be more difficult for them to find the fog's original body. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.